6 report in.
Red 10 standing by.
Red 7 standing by.
Red 3 standing by.
Red 6 standing by.
Red 9 standing by.
Red 2 standing by.
Red 11 standing by.
Red 5 standing by.
I still smell like cigars from last night. My wife washed all of my clothes. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to all ships at sea and around the world. This is The Rational Male live from Red One Studios in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. Just so you guys know, you will never, ever reason a woman into bed. All right, we're going to start with something that I've been meaning to put out for now. This was actually done. This is a collaborative effort between myself and my good friend Clytus, and I have been remiss in actually putting this on.
Yes. Well, hello again, Karen. How long has it been? We really should keep up more often.
Oh gosh, Louie, I'm sorry, it has been a while. The last time we talked was before I got married.
Yes. And how's the marriage going?
Oh, it's okay, I suppose. Ken is a good guy. I mean, he's a good dad and all, but...
He's not exciting?
Not really. Not like it was before we got married.
Does he treat you well?
Well, yeah, I can't complain.
Does he listen, pay attention, provide for you? Give you what you truly desire?
Mostly.
But isn't this the life you dreamed of for yourself? When we discussed our initial contract, I remember you did have quite a list of specifics for a husband, like Ken.
Of course.
So he doesn't make you happy? No? Well, I'm sorry to hear that. But you know, there is a clause in our first contract you might consider.
Really?
Of course! You can always leave him. I'll make it easy for you.
How?
First off, don't worry about your reputation or what other people will say. We can craft a story where all your friends will agree that he's a negligent asshole. A narcissist, if you like. Everyone will sympathize with you, even most of his friends. People always side with the woman, and those who don't get shut down by those who do.
Yeah, but what about my kids?
So you do want the kids then? No problem. The clause covers this. Family courts almost always side with the woman. I'm pretty sure you're not a drug addict or a criminal, so you're good there. If you change your mind about the kids later, that's not a problem either. Or only half the time, no worries. I'll get you half your time off. Have fun. Be single again. You're still young. And now you know what you really want in a guy. You deserve to find your soulmate. I think that guy Brock from college might still be single.
Yeah, but money might get a little tight.
Oh, not at all. Here's the best part. I can get you paid to leave him. You're going on what, 7 years now? The escape clause can get you paid for at least half the length of your marriage. That's more than enough time for you to find your true soulmate. Or a job, at least. The clause also allows for money. You know, for the kids. If you can hold out for just another 3 years, just 36 months, I could get you paid every month forever. And just so you know, I wouldn't dream of checking on how you spend your money. The kids' money is basically for you, huh? But if I'm honest, I do get a cut of this too, so it's kind of like a win-win.
That sounds good, but I don't know how the kids would take it if we left the house.
The house? Of course you get the house. I mean, we wouldn't want to take little Brock and Stacy away from their neighborhood friends. They're still growing up. That would be cruel. I'd never make you move. No. He'll move to a studio or maybe a one-bedroom about 30 or 45 minutes away, or whatever he can get. And his moving expenses won't be a problem either. His new mortgage, rent, furnishings, etc., won't come from your community property, no. That's on him. The escape clause spells all this out, Karen.
I must admit, this sounds pretty good.
Right. The clause is available to all my female clientele. Not to be morose, but you can get paid again when he dies. I know, but it's part of my job to think about these things. He'll have to sign a new insurance policy to see the kids. As their mother, this makes you the beneficiary. He won't get the kids half the time if he refuses. He'll see them once a month, supervised of course. Sometimes the process is more than a man can bear.
That's kind of mean, isn't it?
Unavoidable, I'm afraid. The whole affair will stress him out, so there's a chance he might lose his job or... But don't worry. He has to pay anyway, whether he has a job or not. Otherwise, the escape clause can put him in prison.
I guess that's what you get for not reading the fine print.
So true. But that is how you people have set all this up. It's a small price to pay for your happiness when you think about it. So between alienating his friends, taking the house, losing his job and his future earnings, I can easily get you half your free time, plus money, plus the house, and everyone will sympathize with you. So there it is, my new offer. Be free. Wouldn't you like to feel something again? Feel heard, seen, valued, loved? It's been 7 years. The kids will be fine. I mean, we only live once. Don't you deserve to be happy?
What's all this gonna cost me, Louis?
Nothing. Well, nothing more than the collateral you've already signed over to me in our first contract. All that's left is one question, Karen. What is it you truly desire?
Oh, I hate to do that to you guys, especially after and then back it up with this one.
No, facts. Marriage is overwhelmingly unsuccessful. It is way more dangerous than skydiving. The chances of a catastrophic skydiving incident is like 0.0003, and one where you die is 0.00001. It's like very limited, the chances of dying from skydiving. Whereas the chances of divorce, again, 56% divorce rate. How many stay together who are unhappy and they just stay together because they don't give up half their stuff or for religious reasons or whatever? This is a technology with an unbelievably bad failure rate. Many people's sense of self dies as part of an unhappy marriage. It's not a question of will you die. It's that you're alive and not living your life in a way that's enjoyable or in a way that's authentic to who you are. And I think a lot of people are doing that as a function of the choice that they made of marriage. And again, I'm not saying don't get married. But what I'm saying is, when someone says, I'm getting married, why is it impolite to say, why? Why? You're about to do something incredibly dangerous that fails so much of the time. Why not just say, why? I'm not saying, why would you do that? It's stupid. I'm saying, why? Because most people's answer doesn't make any sense. First of all, you're not even allowed to ask the question, why? If anything, if you don't say, oh my God, that's so great, you have intimacy issues.
Something very, very wrong with you. God, I got to get Jim in here.
And really crave in relationship. I'm going to share this, and it's not from a place of ego. I'm not speaking about my ego. I'm speaking about the collective masculine ego.
Every time anybody says it's not about my ego, it's about their ego. In fact, you can pretty much guess that if that's the prefix, that's what it's about.
Men need to be appreciated and seen for what they give and who they are. And if I look at evolutionary psychology and evolutionary biology and our understanding, at least, of how we have evolved in groups, a man's utility and a man's value in that group often meant that that group would survive, or the chances of that group surviving were higher. And his sense of identity was validated through his peers and through his contribution. And again, when I say men need to be appreciated for what they give and who they are and how they show up, it's not coming from a place of inflated ego or a place of deep insecurity. It can, of course, absolutely. But I'm speaking to this innate need and desire to be of value and utility to those in our lives that are important to us. And a man does not want to be seen for who he was in the past, but who he is today, especially if he is aware that his actions and behaviors in the past were hurtful towards him and his own life path and towards those that he cared about deeply. What are your thoughts on this?
What would you like to know? My thoughts are I need more tattoos on my arms. And I have to develop an Australian accent.
Could a bad man be like, well, that's a masculine man. Masculinity must be toxic. A bad man is a man who goes into the world and imposes his will for selfish reasons. A good man is a man who goes into the world and he imposes his will for the benefit of others. In between these men, you have a whole host of lost boys that have no idea what it means to be a man. But this is where women get men really confused. They will look.
See, this is the kind of shit that just drives fucking Roll Tomasi insane.
Lost boys.
In fact, it drives me so insane I have to talk about myself in the third person. This is the kind of shit that just blows me away because it's like, yeah, to be a man is to learn kin altruism. Okay. Everything's about being this serviceable utility that's disposable, like
I'm a tool,
like Kleenex. You know?
I'm a tool.
Yes.
A bad man be like, well, that's a masculine man. Masculinity must be toxic. No, that guy isn't even a full man yet. He's stuck in what's called the adolescent male stage. He hasn't transitioned in the comprehensive man stage. And there's usually steps for most men. They start as lost boys, we get coached, and then you're going through life doing everything for selfish reasons, self-gratification, what can you get out of life? But eventually, if you keep progressing.
I got news for you. Everybody does everything out of selfish reasons. Like there's no such thing as altruism. Come on. But I love how these guys try to like foster this narrative, this idea. It's very, very philosophical. It's very, very religious, very, very morally upstanding, which is do everything for the common. It's like playing Tao in 40K. Everything's for the greater good. You know? Masculinity for the greater good.
As a man, you will step into the comprehensive man. And this is the type of man that shows up for those who are on his watch. This is the type of man that goes into this world of chaos and carves out order to protect those he loves. This is the type of guy that's going to show up and lay down his life to take care of his family, take care of his friends. And this is the type of man that makes the world spin. It is.
And meanwhile, while you gave up your life, she's brought a date to your funeral.
So much better to be a comprehensive man. Having passed through these stages myself, I can speak with some certainty on this. Being a comprehensive man is the only rational way to approach this crazy, chaotic world. And if you want to see how you met.
Of course, I have a better idea. Learn to thrive in the chaos. That would be a whole lot better.
And who are high on the dark triad traits, narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism, get on the apps. They accrue a lot of matches. They're usually very good at first impressions. I mean, this is sort of consistent finding in psychology research, is that men who are high on the dark triad tend to make very good first impressions, but then gradually they tend to burn bridges very quickly, and people sort of learn who they really are. They sort of identify that, oh, this very sort of glib and charming person is actually untrustworthy.
One of the things that gets me about, like, I mean, this is Dr. I think he got his doctorate now, Dr. Rob Henderson. I like Rob quite a bit. I think he has become a product of his own creation, his own like web-based online persona is what he's about right now. He is now an instructor of some sorts for Jordan Peterson's Peterson Academy or Peterson University. I forget what it's called. And I've been following him since before he was like a doctor. Like he was still at school when I was following him, and got a really great Substack. I've got a lot of respect for the guy, but man, he has just sort of jumped the shark here recently. The funny thing is I've got probably half a dozen different studies and different research that he actually posted on Twitter that I bookmarked and held on to that pretty much contradicts everything that he's saying right now. I think one of the things about if you go and you start working for Peterson University, you have to agree with everything Jordan Peterson has to say. And so if there's something about dark triad traits in men, it's always negative because, well, Michaela Peterson got with Andrew Tate. So let's just call a spade right there. But the other part of this is that I love how whenever we talk about guys with dark triad traits, it's always the most extreme, most clown world, over the top, straw man example of a guy with dark triad traits, which of course research after research has proven that women are very attracted to.
So they have to move on very quickly, but at least at first sight, they're very attractive to women, and maybe tell them lies or tell them they want a relationship. They sleep with some women and then just ghost them or never talk to them again.
Why do you have to tell lies if you're a dark triad guy? Like, does that like come with the territory? Is that like something that you have to do? Because I don't necessarily agree with that. It's like, you could still be dark triad and speak exactly the truth. Your truth is the truth that you're saying is like, look, this is what I'm about, and take it or leave it. That's not a lie. It's just, when women will call it love bombing or something like that. Because the thing that gets me is like the character or the dark triad guy that women absolutely can't get over, who they become an alpha widow of. The guy's not lying. He just is not going to be locked down. And just because he won't play house and he won't go along with her life plan, that makes him a narcissist. That makes him Machiavellian. That makes him a sociopath.
And this is costless because, they don't have the same friends in common, so it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, well, it does. I remember this one.
There's a lot of different criteria for men when it comes to like doing things and achieving things that earn them respect amongst other men. That's why we do things hierarchically. In the military, there's chain of command. In the workspace, there's the CEO, there's the CFO, there's a COO, and all down to the janitor. On team sports, there's a team captain, all the way down to, the guy. We tend to think of things in terms of hierarchy and and that's usually based on respect for the most part. So like how much money do you make is according to like what your performance is. For women, it's more egalitarian. It's much more socialist, it's much more communitarian. And that's just a difference of psychology. What's the best way to organize a society? Is it hierarchical, or is it in the round? Is it in egalitarianism? And really for the last, I'd say 65 years right now, we've really kind of been experimenting with how would women organize society. And that's why we're kind of where we're at right now with everything being communitarian, everything like sort of leaning socialist right now as far as politics are concerned, because we're really experimenting with this female way of doing things, because we put women into such a position of power right now that seems obvious to them. Whereas for us, it's like we want things to be more hierarchical. And so when you put those two together, or you have old hierarchical systems that you put females into those systems and they want to change those systems, they turn that hierarchy into a community because that's the only thing that they know. It goes back to what he was saying. Men and women, when they process emotions differently. And not because of some social conditioning or some macho bullshit, it's not social construction. It's because our brains are literally not wired like women's brains are.
Yeah, keep that in mind. That's going to be one of the operative points today, people. But
man, well, sometimes you don't get no holes, man.
You cannot win an argument with your husband, and he can't win a husband can't win an argument with his wife, not unless
we're all living our truths instead of the truth.
He wants to defeat her, in which case
he defeats himself.
Well, he lives with a defeated woman. Well, seriously,
I thought he was going to go so deep with it.
Well, what good is that going to be? That's not helpful, because now you're living with someone who's defeated and bitter. You can't stomp around and insist that you were right if you happen to be the person who's better at making verbal arguments. Well, one of the things you want to do is, if your wife has a problem with you want to help her make her argument, because maybe she's right, and it's going to be in her interest to straighten you out if she has any sense, and it would be in your interest to listen.
Why did I decide to build an online university?
I have lots and lots of money. Now, remember, this is the guy who decided he was going to marry Tammy when he was 7 years old. Just throwing that one out there. Last one here. Like, we have to see this. This sets the stage.
In theory and in practice are two different things.
Sure.
In theory, theoretical about how humans behave and about what they're going to do.
Tristan in the back, and that chick in the back there is one of the chicks that works at the Mustang Ranch or the Bunny Ranch up in Reno.
How they're going to act is completely different than in real life, because there are so many factors.
That's the premise of behaviorism. Is there is no way to discern motivation or intent without observing behavior. So when I say like emotions, like when I break this down, I've broken this down in several different essays. It's instinct, emotion, and reason. Instinct and emotion they're fast. They're the fastest way we can process information, right? Instinct, if I was to throw something at you, you would dodge out of the way. It's your instinct to get away from a fly or something like that, right? So we have those instincts that kind of like are at the root of the brain stem, right? That's why they call it the hindbrain or the lizard brain. And then there's the emotional side of things. And emotion is how we also interpret our surroundings and
information that comes into us from the outside world, right? How do you feel about this? Does it make you angry? Does it make you sad? Emotions, I can change your, in fact, you guys have already changed your emotional state with what? How many shots of tequila have we had so far?
0.
I can change your emotional state.
Not Sonia. Not Sonia.
Yes,
Sonia did not have any.
I can,
just want to make sure we understand.
I can change your emotional state chemically. If I want, or through stimulation to your brain, or through music, or through art, I can change your mood and your emotions through a series. If I'm clever enough to figure out what the stimuli is going to be to put you in those things. So for instance, like if I want to change his emotion to anger, I can shoot him up with a 200 milligrams of Tren right now. Okay, or as I said, tequila makes your clothes fall off. Okay, those kinds of things where you've got that emotional side. Emotions are meant to drive a human being, or an animal for that matter, to two states: to survival or to reproduction. And those are when we feel happiness, when we feel anxiety, when we feel depression. It's meant to drive you from one state to another. And then there's a reason, and that is the slowest one, because we have to learn things. That's where your gray matter comes in. And so when we learn things and we put those things together, then we can understand emotion, and then we can understand instinct on top of that. So we're looking at a process here where if we look at instinct and we look at emotion, those are understandable through reason. It just takes a slower time to do that. So when you're feeling something and you're like, what the magic is, you're in the moment and it's fast for you. It's quicker to do that. But then your reason kicks in and goes, should I really be with this bum? Because I've been in relationships with assholes like this guy before, and that's when your reason kicks in. So that overrides the magic juice or whatever that's going through your head that makes you want to get with that guy.
That's right.
All right, so there you go. Thank you very much. Thank you for being patient with me. I really wanted to do that first video with the escape clause, because myself and Clytus have been like working on that for a long time. It's been out for a bit, but like Clytus gets like, he got ratioed for like putting that up on his thing. So I'm like, fuck it, I'll just put it in at the beginning of one of the shows. And it was something that I earlier last year I wrote, and then it took some time. I wrote the script for that. And then we kind of like pieced it together over the course of probably, it took him almost like 6 months to do the animation. He does like flash animation or like stop animation like that. I don't even know what to call it. But Clytus does Clytus is king, I think is what his @ is. But just look him up. Good dude. Big friend of the show for a long time. But you guys get bonus points, bonus cool points if you can tell me where the cane came from. What movie did the cane come from? You know. Somebody's going to know what that is. Yes, it's the Robert De Niro version of Satan. Yes. And I threw in as many Lucifer Morningstar jokes as I probably little jabs in there and here and there too. But Angel Heart, yeah, you're right. You are correct, sir. You are correct. You get a Don DeMarco. It was from Angel Heart.
Don DeMarco.
Yeah. Can you name Robert De Niro's character's name in that? And it's not Satan. That was a really good movie, man. That's one of quite honestly, I think that was probably one of the classics. If there's there's been like a lot of different movies where like they portray the devil in the movie. Mm-hmm. And like I've always thought that like was it Tom Ellis in Lucifer Morningstar is fucking fantastic at that. And by the way, Tom Ellis should be the new James Bond. I'm gonna die on that fucking hill. I think that he would be a fucking excellent choice for that character for whenever they do the next one. Some people are saying it should be Henry Cavill. Okay, but I see him as more like Superman than anything else. He could be debonair. You need debonair. That's what it is. Like you have to have debonair, whatever the fuck that means. But yeah, Louis Cypher. Thank you. Yep, there you go. You got another one. You guys are looking this up. You guys went to fucking Google, didn't you? What was his name? Yeah. So I thought it was funny. Yeah. I just like I don't know who does the wardrobe for Lucifer Morningstar on that show when it was on. Fuck, man, you want some style points? You got to learn them from the devil. I remember when I was watching this because it came on. Like I remember when Netflix bought out Lucifer Morningstar, and it used to be a TV show, and then when they brought it over to Netflix, man, it turned into something else. But I thought it was good. It got kind of campy later on, but like the character of Lucifer Morningstar as portrayed by Tom Ellis, I thought was pretty good. Robert De Niro does a good devil as well. I'm trying to think who else would be a good devil.
But thought it was pretty good. What about Troy Francis? Troy Francis could probably pull off 007. Yeah, he has debonair, definitely. Yeah. What are you saying here? Tom Ellis is too old. He's not too old. Fuck. How old do you want him to be? James Bond needs to start fresh and young like Daniel Craig. But how old is Daniel Craig? Look up how old is Daniel Craig?
He's in his 50s already.
He's got to be in his 50s, right? Yeah. Kyle, this explains why women use witchcraft. Thank you. Yeah.
He is, let's see, 56.
56. That's how old Daniel Craig is?
Yep.
How old is Tom Ellis?
Tom Ellis?
Yeah. Still waiting on the Book of Maxims. Yeah, it's still in the works. I kind of switched over to working more on Reignite, but I do have the outline is done for Maxims already.
Tom Ellis is 46.
See, there you go. See, he's young. He is young.
10 years younger.
10 years younger.
A decade.
You see Matt Walsh talk about an article where in Texas men can report on women seeking abortions. Is there? I didn't know there was something like that. And so what? Is it not legal in Texas to have an abortion? I don't know. By the way, I keep speaking of abortions. One of the things I keep seeing is Elon, if you're watching, and I know you watch the show regularly, you are a regular Rational Male watcher, Elon. Elon keeps popping off about like, oh man, we got fertility rates, we're below replacement, we need to have more babies. I'm like, you're Elon Musk, dude. You just fuck.
You have 10.
Elon can go into Zook and go, I want to fuck that one, and that one, and I'll buy them houses, and they're gonna have babies for me, and they'll be like, he's like this breeding animal, he's like this draft animal. Pull
down the hill.
But no, the thing is I'll see that and he'll start, because I don't know if he's just like on this kick about fertility rate recently, but I'm like, bro, you are the one who instituted those abortion passes as benefits for female employees at SpaceX and Tesla. And as far as I know, those are still part of the benefits package. So you might want to start at home before you start mouthing off about fertility rates and everything else. Because I remember in 2022, he wanted to be on board with what was going on in, what was it? Passing Roe v. Wade back to the States, right? And everybody was so worried that there's going to be abortion states and there's going to be non-abortion states. And if somebody from Tesla had to go and cross state lines to go get an abortion and then come back, to that, they were going to give you, I think it was like a $3,000 stipend or something like that. So you could go across the border, go into an abortion state, have the abortion, then go back to wherever go back to Reno where the Gigafactory is. Yeah. Yeah. Elon, take care of things at home before you start popping off, because I'm going to be right there. Every time you start doing that, I'm going to say, this you? And it's going to be that MSNBC story about how Tesla and SpaceX give away free abortions. So, you go clean up your own house, brother. Yeah. And speaking of fertility rates, the other thing that kind of gets me is like, this is like a topic du jour. I don't know why, but people want to start talking about fertility rates here and around the world, right? And I think the joke was like, North Korea would never have to like invade South Korea, because all I got to do is just wait and then just cross the border. And now South Korea is now North Korea. But no, the time to have been worrying about fertility rates here in the United States was 1975. Because that's when we went below replacement level and have been below replacement level really since like it spiked a little bit, but then it came back down and it's just been falling off since early 80s. Nobody had shit to say then because it wasn't that big a deal, and we didn't have the internet, and nobody had like pearls to clutch like that, right? And then in other news, speaking of Matt Walsh, Matt, please don't fall for this bait one more time. Because now apparently, we had Bonnie Blue trying to pick up the guy in Five Guys.
Yeah.
Where are the Five Guys? Are they in the back? Like, you think this is real, right? Are there 5 guys in the back? Because I want the 5 guys. They're on the menu. Really? You don't think that's a setup? Okay. No, but now, of course, because we have to escalate everything. Now, good old... was it Lily Phillips? Lily Phillips has decided that she's going to take 100 men in her ass in 24 hours. So, apparently vaginal sex is not enough. We have to go the anal route now, because that's going to get more eyes on the screen. And of course, what's going to happen? All these trad cons, including probably Matt. I don't know. I'm holding out hope. Maybe Matt has learned his lesson, but probably not.
I will guarantee you, it's easy content for him. Like when you drop shit like that in his lap, he's gonna take it, right? So I expect another about 14 to 15 minute video from Matt Walsh talking about like dancing around the dancing around anal sex. Yeah, that's going to be funny. Speaking of which, announcement time. I will be speaking of anal sex. I'll be at the AVN Expo this week, and people. Maybe I should have this conversation with you guys in the chat here too. By the way, if we get enough super chats, I'm going to do an AMA. We'll do an Ask Me Anything for the last hour of today's show. And by anything, I mean anything. Did I put the challenge up there? I don't know if I put the challenge up there for the super chats. Anyways, put enough super chats in, I'll decide what I want to do. But no, so I'm going to be going to the AVN. I usually go every year. The original reason that I went the first time, actually me and Mike went the first time, was about, coming up on 3 years ago. And we went out there and we tried to recruit girls from the expo to come on Access Vegas, right? And they all said, yeah, sure, we'll be there. It was when we were doing that sticky pause at the time. And none of them showed up. We literally had the first time we ever canceled the show was because of the AVN, because once the girls are at the expo, they don't want to leave the expo. They make too much money. They're like working on Chatterbait, or they're working on whatever it is that they're Sex Panther or whatever the fuck they do. I don't know, because I don't subscribe to any of those things. But you can't get them away from the expo. So last year I went with Domo and I went with Tiffany Fox, and we just walked around and just sort of like did quick hit interviews and just talked to some people. So this year I'm going to do kind of the same thing. So rather than bring the girls to the studio, we're going to bring the studio to them. So I'm going to go and bring my DJI Osmo out there, and we're going to do some interviews, and I will probably be participating in it half of the time. Domo will be doing the other half as well, because she's in the business, so she knows a good portion of these girls, and so do I, for that matter. But I wanted to throw out this. I'm going to probably run myself up the flagpole with this one. Rolo finally run himself up the flagpole. But no, I was just going to say, is like a lot of people will hit me up and they'll go, Rolo, why do you go to those events? Why do you have OnlyFans girls on your show? Right? Because aren't you promoting those girls by giving them a platform? I'm like, yeah, but the difference between me and Matt Walsh is I know what I'm doing. I'm not walking into a shtick or a bit, right? I'm going in there because a lot of these girls come on this show and they have some really good takes. And when we, as I showed you in the last video clip, that was from just last Thursday's Access Vegas. So, by the way, if you haven't subscribed to Access Vegas, please go over and do so. It's actually pretty good. The last 3 shows have been really good shows.
The turnout's been bad.
The turnout has been fantastic. The girls are like sort of they understand what the format is now and what the characteristics of the show is, and they know that they're not going to get kicked off the show. They know that they're not going to they're not walking into the lion's den or anything like that, and we can actually have some substantive, constructive conversations, right? And that's what I was going for. Like that one girl she was like trying to challenge me, right? And so I'm like, well, let me explain to you my take on this, right? And so I started talking to her basically about triune brain theory, but you can't say triune brain theory when you got like, a bunch of OnlyFans creators at your table, because it only goes so far. But she was actually pretty intelligent. And so I actually had a pretty good conversation with her. Also, that girl that was in the background with Tristan, the chick who came in later or through the middle of that show, she sat down and she was like completely sober. She was like totally straight. The reason she was late was because she had to fly in from Reno, and then she took a Uber or whatever directly to the studio because she really wanted to be on the show. And so she came on, and she was down here at the end of this table right here, and she came in and she was on fire, man. She was really good. She talked quite a bit. We had a lot of back and forth. Well, between Mike and her, there was a lot of back and forth until one point in the show. And at one point in the show was when we started talking about body count. And she goes, well, I don't think that's really a fair question for me. And I'm like, well, why is that? She goes, well, because my body count's well above 1,000 because I work at the Moonlight Bunny Ranch in Mound House, Nevada. It's not Carson City.
Should I ask what's her pick rate?
Well, yeah, exactly. And the chat loved her. right up until that point. You can even go through the chat logs, and she's like, "Oh man, she's smart. She knows what you're talking about." Blah blah blah. Then she says, "Yeah, I have about 1,000." You can't even like, "Oh my god, what a ratchet 304!" And then suddenly they just like sharks in the water. Like they smell blood, and they just like it's a feeding frenzy after that, man. And but I thought it was funny because up until that point, everybody thought she was great, she was intelligent, she was smart, and she was pretty smart girl. But then as soon as like people found out like what she does for a living, well, yeah. But I think a lot of people kind of misunderstand. Like when I go to the AVN, I'm there because my friends are there. First and foremost, I'm there because my friends are there. So like if I go there and like Milana Ricci's there, go look her. No, actually, don't go look her. Look her up after this show. Go look up Milana Ricci. She's been on a show several times. She's definitely in commercial porn. Wonderful. She actually has taught me stuff. She's funny. She's just smartish. I like her well enough. But I think that just because people are like when it could be men and women like are in the business, they automatically want to just sort of dismiss whatever they have to say. And I don't think, quite honestly, that's fair, because if that was the case, then we should dismiss everything that Sterling Cooper says. Yeah. Right. So I'm a lot of people want to say, well, Rollo, you just get these ratchet hoes on, you just have porn stars on, you just have the, like, no, we have actually some very smart chicks on here. We have real estate agents. We've had two Miss Nevadas on the show before.
Different perspectives.
Yeah, we actively look for women who are, different from all the rest, right? We're trying to find good conversations. So when people say, Rollo, all you guys go after is just, bikini models and everything else. Well, we're looking for hot chicks. Don't get me wrong, but like we're also looking for constructive, substantive conversation. What did you say? Today, a few hours ago, I speak with my aunt and uncle. I told about my all-father. Thank you, the all-father. Rollo and his teachings based on logic and data and facts of my uncle and aunt Blue Pill Trad Cucks family. Okay, well, there you go. I'm glad I could help you with your aunt and uncle. Yeah. Oh man, what was it? Oh, I know what it was. Oh, I was talking about tradition on one of these days. I think probably one of the, if I was going to have like a regular part of the show, it would be like all the weird conversations I've had on Twitter for like the previous week. One of the things I kind of threw down there was there's a video clip on whatever podcast, and I don't know what Brian's like digging up a lot of old like clips from back in the day. And by back in the day, I mean like 2 years ago. But he had this one where they're talking about, I think it was this, well, of course, it's always Andrew Wilson, but they were talking about like traditional, I want a traditional marriage, or I want to be in a traditional relationship. I want traditional, right? And I keep seeing that word get tossed around, and it's like, it's easy. It's an easy out. It's almost it's like a cope at this point. And I know a lot of people are going to take this the wrong way, but I don't fucking care. But like when people start talking about traditional, like I don't talk about traditional masculinity. I very rarely hear me use the word traditional or traditional masculinity. I always use the word conventional masculinity, because people have different fucking traditions, man. Like my traditions are, let's see, we rape and pillage villages along the North Sea. We take women home as spoils of war. Blood sacrifice is one of my people's tradition. Oh, and then there's the blood eagle.
I was gonna say the blood eagle.
Then there's the blood eagle. That's part of my tradition. You need to respect my traditions, man. Respect my ethno heritage, man. People always ask, Rollo, do you believe in Odin? Because they'll see it. Like, I don't have it today, but they'll see my Mjolnir on here, and it's like, no, that's like heritage. It's just where I'm from. It's like I'm not like saying I worship Odin and Loki and Freya and everything else. I would be LARPing to say that I do that, but like, but it's just heritage is what it is, and so just to blood for the blood god. Yeah, my traditions is kill, maim, burn.
Burn all the heretics.
Yes, kill, maim, burn. Get the heavy flamer.
I mean, machismo for my culture anyway.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, Latin culture is a whole lot different than, Black culture, different from Asian culture, different from
white boy culture.
Yeah.
I love that. People go, white people really don't have culture. I'm like, bitch, I will take you to the next like Lamb of God, concerts. And when they start playing Redneck, you'll know that white people have a culture.
Look up Woodstock.
Yes. Yeah. But white people can't dance. Oh, I disagree. I absolutely disagree. They don't dance the way you dance. Is all. Yeah, you come down to the pit, and we'll show you how white people dance. But so like I think a lot of people kind of misunderstand like why I give airtime to like OnlyFans girls. People want to say, well, of course you do that because that's what pays the bills, right? It gets eyes on the screen. Well, there is definitely a kernel of truth to that. But I think that primarily we're having those conversations just to sort of get, get in the heads of these girls, because a lot of people would just, oh, she's an OnlyFans girl. Oh, she's a ratchet hoe. Yeah, bye. It's like, and then there's like so much more to it than that. And and I kind of look at it at the same thing with respect to like the AVN. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. It's fun to go around the expo, and it's like a freak show. But it's nothing like I'll tell you, Burning Man. Burning Man is a whole lot. It escalates from the AVN. Okay, at least when you go to the AVN, you know what you're getting. You go to Burning Man, and it's like, whoa. What do you got here? The show was good, but 12 people on a podcast seems to make in-depth conversation. Yeah, it is. But I'll tell you, for what it was, for as many people as we had on, because we had Trey Little on as well. And I told, like, right before the show, when we realized we're going to have that many girls on the show, I told Mike, I said, we really got to be careful of directing traffic. That's number one, because we get a lot of crosstalk. And then number two is we need to be able to include everyone. And I think we did a pretty good job of that. The only person who I wanted to include a little bit more was Sydney, and she was the girl that was sitting right next to me with kind of like the reddish purple hair. And you want to know something oddly ironic is Sydney, who if you look at her Instagram page, and she's a fucking hot chick. I mean, she's a fucking hammer. She's a good looking girl, but she's got that kind of red purple hair that throws people off, and they think she's like liberal or something. She's not at all. She's married and has been so for a while. In fact, we were trying to figure out how to introduce her on the show, because everybody else is like, they've got their own, OnlyFans. They got whatever it is that they're doing. She's a stay-at-home mom. That's basically what she does. And I mean, she's a fitness mom, fit mom, right? But she doesn't do porn. She doesn't do anything like that. But if you looked at, like, guys have a look at her, that they would never get that, especially you animals in a freaking chat here. No, if you're watching this on Rumble, yeah, you guys, that's what I'm talking about right there. Hey, thank you very much. Woo, thanks. Oh, look, we're halfway to the Ask Me Anything. Thanks for the golden advice from the last stream about sleeping during the day. Oh, I asked that question on Access Vegas on Thursday too. It was funny. That is exactly what I was looking for, because when they say it's okay for them, deep down they dislike it, and you'll never find that out. More of that, please. Would you like more of that, please? I will be happy to give you more of that. Do I still have the tweet for that? I think I do. That was the goal. I kind of stopped a little early since you gave me such a generous contribution there, my friend. I think I might be able to find that one. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Yeah, it was Pine Bear. This guy named Pine Baron. He's like, I'm still laughing about the meme that women can't stand to see their man sleep in daytime. It must be some deep evolutionary thing. You could be a wilderness firefighter who just got off a 21-hour shift, and if you're napping at 2 p.m, your wife will lose her shit, which is true. Yeah, and I presented this to the girls on Access Vegas. Actually, I said, because I went around the group here, and I don't know what kind of triggered the thought, but I went around the group and I said, does it bother you if your man is sleeping during the day, if he takes a nap, right? If he's like laying on the couch crashed, right? And every single one of them was like, that's an ick. I was like, yeah, because it's like, if you're sleeping, your man ain't hunting.
You know, he's not out there like killing the caribou and bringing the meat back to the tribe, man. That's what it was. And then I thought about that and I go, yeah, because a guy who is sleeping during the day he's a security risk. You know, like women want their guy to sleep during the night and then be wide awake and alert during the daytime. Yeah, it was funny. Oh yeah, he says there was a story on Reddit about a guy who started napping in his truck bed at job sites to solve the issue because he didn't want to sleep in front of his girlfriend or his wife. Yeah. Gosh, and every one of these, man, I should read some of these. Every single one of these is pretty much they're relating a similar story about how their woman or their wives or their girlfriends like lose their shit when they see them sleeping. Yeah, I think it's quite honestly, I think it's more of like an evolutionary psychology thing, right? Yeah. I'm glad you like that. I brought that up, and the girls actually confirmed that on the show. So, let's see. I got to you. Thank you. Thank you for that super chat, my friend. When the girl sitting 2 over from you from your right said, "There's no point to dating guys while they build themselves," I was expecting you to jump in. Yeah, well, sometimes it's kind of difficult to jump in on those things. I would love to be able to. Well, I mean, what do you think I was going to say? I would have just used the Rich Cooper line, right? Women don't care about men's struggles. They fuck the winners at the finish line. They wait at the finish line and they fuck the winners, right? And all that was is basically just confirmation of stuff that you probably already know, rational dude. But what's this? Where is it? There you go. A sobering lesson is when you realize a healthy, independent man has basically no need for women aside from intimacy, companionship, and fun. I have never had a stimulating, interesting conversation with a woman. That's because you don't run a podcast called Access Vegas. I've had some pretty decent conversations with women. But again, I have to be the interviewer, and there's a definite skill to being a good interviewer and getting the most out of people, which, by the way, I learned from Pat Campbell, God rest his soul. But yeah, I think if there is a precondition of like, I don't want anything from this chick. I'm not going home with this girl. And, so I'm not trying to fuck, obviously. And I think if you can eliminate that precondition, you can actually have some interesting conversations that other guys might be able to benefit from. I should point this out as well, is that one of the reasons, like if I get into a conversation, it could be with a woman, it could be with one of my haters, it could be with somebody who, like when I stupidly decided I was going to, actually I let Mike talk me into it, but when I did the quote unquote debate with Alex from Playing with Fire, all it was just this, and I told him it was going to happen. I told Mike it would happen this way, and it did. It was just this inquisition. That's all it was. There was no debate, and everybody in that space was expecting there to be some substantive conversation, some debate and back and forth, and all it was, remember that time you lied about me and it was 4 years ago, and now you hurt my feelings. And I'm just like, were we going to talk about like the 99 rules of Tomasi? Are we going to talk about alpha widows? Or are we going to talk about like evolutionary psychology? What? Because there was no debate there. It was just this spurg fest for 3 hours. And I'm just like, if we're not going to have a debate, we're going to talk about something that's like, I said, I need topics from you. And every topic was how you lied about me. I'm like, that's not a fucking debate, dude. That's just an inquisition, right? But the thing is I did it anyways. And why did I do it? Because the people who were involved in, or who would listen to that, during that time or whatever, like I get into some, like I stupidly get into some arguments and some discussions with people who are just probably are never gonna, like I'm not gonna change their mind about anything. But my goal isn't to change their mind. My goal is to educate the people who are in the chat and to give them something that is substantive and constructive, and they learning something from this effort and futility with the person that I got across the table from me, right? So sometimes you can also sort of characterize, like if I'm going to the AVN and people go, well, why would I want to watch this? I'm like, well, maybe you learned something, and maybe you entirely disagree with this chick, and maybe it gives you just some indignation, outrage, spike in your adrenaline or whatever like that. Okay, but if you learn something from that, if you understand the characteristics, if you understand why people get into this and why people do what they do, like for instance, one of the reasons I was able to pick out Bonnie Blue and Lily Phillips, who, by the way, I remembered directly from Fresh and Fit, and then what you call it? Oh, and then Annie Knight, which nobody's talked about yet. Annie's going to throw her hat in the ring pretty soon. Trust me on this. But it's those three chicks. The reason I know them is because I know other porn stars that know them. That's how when Lily Phillips started throwing stuff out there, I knew her from Fresh and Fit, but I also realized that the shtick that she was pulling was very similar to what Annie Knight and what Bonnie Blue have been doing for pretty much the whole year. They wanted to fuck as many guys as they possibly could throughout the year of 2024. And they prioritized it with guys who were like 18-year-old virgins because they wanted to, they're great humanitarians, right? They wanted to solve your virgin. They wanted to, take your V card, right? Yeah. And then they were also prioritizing guys who were in sexless marriages, as I said, humanitarians, right? And I already knew about this from like back in like July of this year. So when all this stuff started coming around in like the end of December and into January of this year, I'm like, yeah, she's just pulling the same shtick as Bonnie Blue. And then I realized they've worked together. Bonnie Blue and Lily Phillips and Annie Knight are all on the same team. They're not saying they are, but that's their shtick they're not selling sex. They're selling outrage. They're selling indignation. So every time like Matt Walsh does another 14-minute video on her, that's more conservatives who are like signing up for her OnlyFans, which is probably the majority of her base, right? And it gives the guys, it gives them the red meat that they want. They just want to talk about, like, I can't believe this. We're headed for moral degeneracy. The world's going to hell in a handbasket. Bring on the asteroid. And that's what they want to say. Here, see, it's black and white, clear as day. What's wrong with you people? Slanesh is pleased. By the way, the new Slanesh models, holy shit, those are the Emperor's Children ones are great. Yes, I did see them at the LVO. Yeah, so I'm stoked with all the new shit that's coming out for 40K this year. I'm sorry, I don't mean to nerd out on you, but it's fresh in my brain right now. Yeah. Oh, and then I should point out the joke that I made in the very beginning of the show is we went to a cigar bar last night. Yeah, that was fun, man. I was there with Miguel and Charlie and his Cultivate Crypto guys. So big shout out to you guys. That was fun. Every time I go there, I'm like, do these guys really know who I am? And then I'll walk in the door and I just get mobbed. Crazy mobbed. And I'm glad you guys. I'm glad you love me. But that was fun. I really enjoyed that club was great. Was it Tap and Ash? Tap and Ash.
It's a good place.
Yeah, it's cool. What's funny is like when we went in there and I first got there wasn't that many people. And the first football game had gone off, but then the Commanders and Detroit started playing, right? And that's when everybody started filing in there to see because they had all these TVs there. It's like a speakeasy.
Yeah, it is.
It was cool, and I was talking to these guys. We had this sort of like brand group of guys. I didn't know what to do. I was just there, just talking to people, right? And then I've been sitting there for about an hour, and I got up to go find Miguel, and I look around, and I go, damn, there's black people there. There are Latino people there. There are white people there. There are, I think I might have saw one or two Asian people there.
Melting pot.
Yeah, it is like a full on. I'm like, damn, man. And everybody's just chilling, smoking cigars, drinking. Yeah, no issues, no nothing. And then that one black chick who was like the jazz singer, the R&B singer who was there. I was like, damn, this is like, who knew this place was here, man? This is awesome. And minus the cigar smoke, I would take my wife there. I would, but she wouldn't be able to hang with the smokes.
I go there to watch the game.
Yeah,
it's a cool place.
That's a very Tap and Ash, man. Shout out to you guys. Hey, Rollo, currently on your third book. Okay, that's positive masculinity. Good. While I don't agree with all your points, I'm thankful I realize now that if I don't work and care for myself enough, there's no one else to blame but me. Yep. That is true. That's one of the reasons why I get into like, I lock horns with these idiots that talk about like, I hear this. I wrote an essay about this on Substack, but you're always going to have like kind of on the Lily Phillips, like Bonnie Blue thing. The first thing, primarily it's women, but you'll see guys who just sort of want to like, suck up like the cuttlefish. they're always going to bring around the reasoning for why a Bonnie Blue exists or a Lily Phillips exists is because it's men. Men are the problem. If men weren't subscribing to OnlyFans, then this wouldn't be a problem. This wouldn't have. If men were better, then women would be forced to be better. And I always take that to its logical conclusion, which is, well, do women have agency or do they not have agency? Are we our sister's keeper, or are they responsible for their own fucking actions, right? Are they sinless creatures with like no free will, and anything that they do is the fault of men? Like it's like when you cheat on your wife, it's your fault. And then if she cheats on you, it's also your fault because you weren't meeting her needs. And if you cheat on her, well, you're a fucking asshole and you're dark triad. It's always the man's fault, and primarily because on some level of consciousness, women and men understand that men have a burden of performance, right? Well, the problem is that under the old traditional way of thinking, right? In a quote unquote patriarchy that no longer exists and hasn't existed since like 1968. The old way of thinking was really, men were responsible for their kids and they were responsible for their wives. And we were supposed to be like, at least in some way, responsible for the actions of women, right? That all died in a post-sexual revolution world, if it ever existed in the first place, right? So at what point are women beholden to their own actions? At what, why am I to blame, or why are my brothers to blame? Because I don't fucking subscribe to her, but why are they to blame for what Bonnie Blue does? Why instead of poking your finger at the guys who are like watching this or like subscribing to it or participating in it, why are we not like trying to deregulate OnlyFans? Right? We just killed TikTok.
Yeah.
Why can we not at least in some way put some sort of restraints and regulations on OnlyFans? I mean, if you're not going to eliminate it entirely, okay, but can we like put some rules in place? Mm-hmm. I mean, we used to be able to do that for antitrust. We used to do that for monopolies, like when Pac Bell got this is back in like the 80s, when the Baby Bells got separated and everything because it was a monopoly, right? So there could be some competition and stuff. There's no competition in the OnlyFans world, right? I guess unless you have like True Fans or whatever, something that nobody uses, right? Why are we not focusing on OnlyFans? You know why? Because OnlyFans is like what, a $18 billion company, yeah. And it's privately owned. Oh, by the way, the OnlyFans, there will never be an IPO for OnlyFans. If I was that dude, there would never be an IPO for that, man. And so I thought about this, and I wrote this article about it. It's on my Substack. It's my most recent Substack thing. If you want the link, it's in the description below. But I was looking at this. I'm like, at what point are we going to force women to take responsibility for their own fucking actions instead of defaulting to this? It's because of men, and you evil, horrible men are jerking off to this. I'm like, okay, well, if that's the case, and if men are responsible for the consequences and the actions and the results, whatever whatever comes from their actions, right? If men are responsible for that, then we should also be responsible for their successes. We should also be responsible for their achievements. So if a woman, discovers a cure for cancer, no. That was the guys, because men are responsible for women's actions. And if a woman decided that she's going to cure cancer, guess what? She doesn't get any accolades for that. It's the guys. Like no one wants to say anything. When we talk about bad results, it's usually about jerking off, right? It's usually about sex. And so when we say, it's men's fault, guarantee you it's about something sexual in nature. But when we say, if that's the case, then universally speaking, if women have no agency and they have no free will, and it's men who are responsible for them, then their successes are equally as responsible and due to men. So you don't get it both ways. Trad con, trad femme chick, trad mom, power mom. You don't get that. Either I'm responsible for your successes and your achievements, and I'm responsible for your downfall and for your sins, or you're responsible for them. It's on you. I prefer that one, but if you want me to take responsibility for your successes, I'm happy to do that too. Because those are the rules. That's the rules of engagement that you wanted to place on me and my brothers and anybody else who like is involved in all this stuff. So if you're going to blame guys for for subscribing to OnlyFans or for participating in those things, and you want to say that's a sign of moral degeneracy, if men were better than women were too, then what you're saying is that those women are not responsible for those actions, or they're minimally responsible. They're only reacting to the demand placed on them by these evil men. Okay, well, if that's the case, then you have no agency. If you don't want women in general to be held accountable for their actions, then guess what? And those actions, and men are the ultimate arbiters of those actions in the first place. Then your successes, your degrees, you just wrote the next bestseller on the New York Times. Guess what? That's because of me. Nobody said no, that doesn't even enter into the fucking equation. It's not even a concept in their heads. If a woman went and developed this new science or this new literature form or this new art form or this new whatever it is, and it could be the most fantastic achievement of mankind. Guess what? It's mankind, not you, because you don't have responsibility for that. You don't have agency, and therefore the men who are responsible for you are the ones who get the accolades for that. Don't like that? Give up your rights. Don't like that? Then stop with this bullshit about every time it's something sexual, every time it's about guys getting off, then it's men need to be better. Why? Well, because women can't be held entirely, at least, responsible for that. Well, can they be held entirely responsible for their successes? Oh, yeah, of course. Well, of course, that's what you would want. Sick of this shit. Do you think Christian women deep down view Christian men as weak, soft, and blue pill? Absolutely. Well, in general, today. In general, yes. Beta feminine to a degree, yes. Too well behaved, no dark triads, pandering to the feminine, yes. You know why? Because they're the guys that will take them after they're done with their hoe phase. By and large. There are very few women who don't go through a hoe phase and then get into what I call the epiphany phase, which is that's when they want to get right with God and they want to do things the right way. And the problem is that's really, I mean, I can call it cope, but it's a rationale for justifying and coping with their situation, which is now they're in their 30s, generally speaking, after 29 to 31, somewhere in there. What's the average age of first marriage? 30 years old for women. And that's usually when women decide they want to, that's the prodigal daughter returneth, right? She wants to come back to the fold. I'm going to make these guys do the right thing. And so what does she do is she puts, I have boundaries. You know what boundaries are? Boundaries are rules. And women make rules for betas. They break rules for alphas. So yes, a guy who would accept that, a guy who would jump through her hoops, a guy who would abide by her rules, there's, by order of degree, that guy is going to be seen as lesser, blue pill, beta, soft, weaker than the guys who have been in her past who were more alpha. I mean, unless she's a virgin, unless she's like held out for however long, right? And then the guy that comes into her life is the only guy she's ever known, so he's the alpha by default. You know, ignorance is bliss. I wrote about what was it? That scene in The Matrix where Cypher wants to plug himself back into the Matrix. And it was I actually rewrote an essay that I actually kind of embellished. I guess I kind of built on an old essay. But that scene in The Matrix is so philosophically pivotal to the plot of that story that I don't think people really appreciate. That's Judas selling out Jesus for 30 coins of silver, right? That's the moment where he sells out his friends. And for what? Because ignorance is bliss. He wants to go back into the Matrix where things are fake and presuming the Matrix, like the Smith units won't just like kill him immediately. Yeah, exactly. Like you're very trusting here, you know? Lie. Yeah. Like, how do you know that they're not just going to kill you? Right. But again, it's central to the plot, right? But I think it's interesting because like so many people experience something very similar to what Cypher does, like especially when they come into the quote unquote red pill, our intersexual dynamics and stuff. They want to go back to the way it was before. We lose the magic. This was the reason I'm bringing this up is because one of the girls that was on the show with us on Access Vegas brought this up. And it was the same one that I was sort of having the back and forth with about instinct, emotion, and reason, which I'll get to in a moment. But she was talking about, and the crux, let's just say, of that conversation was she was locking horns with Mike. Now, Mike is very empirical. Mike is all reason. Like there's no room for emotions. And if there is, it's just so we can get to the next reasonable fact, right? I'm a little bit different from Mike in the sense that I understand the purpose and the function of emotion. And I'm okay with accepting parts of it, because if you're not accepting, like, okay, when I talk about instinct, emotion, and reason, those are all necessary elements of the human mind and our way of processing information that make us human beings. So I have in the past been criticized of being like too analytical, like I'm Mr. Spock, right? And in some cases I can be, right? But I leave that up to Mike now. I vibe with the girls. But Mike, like especially when we start talking about astrology and tarot cards, and that's actually why I did the thumbnail today. We start talking about crystals and vibing and energy and my feminine energy and I have to like clarify myself. And it's really hard to do with women, because if you try to, like, both Mike and I tend to default to empirical language. Like we use the language of reason, whereas the women are using the language of emotion, right? And so that's why we start talking past one another, because we're not speaking the same language, right? Now that's why I was pointing out, how emotion and logic clash in the dating world, right? Well, the dating world, especially for women, is generally predicated on emotionalism, on feels before reels, right? And that you want to know why we have such a good show on whatever, or not on Access Vegas, is because of that clash, is because of the emotionalism versus the rational and the empiricism. And that's what makes for a good conversation. People, well, why are you arguing with women, Rolo? Aren't you breaking your own rule? Well, I'm like, I don't have a rule like that. I'll argue with women all day long if I think that there's going to be a constructive conversation that comes from it. And even if I'm not going to change that woman's mind, as I said, maybe someone in the chat learned something. Hell, maybe I learned something, right? Oh, I've never had it put to me that way before. Let me readjust some things here, right? I am not above being educated by people who are not at my black belt level, right? That's what I remember when, so I've studied 3 forms of martial arts in my life. Okay. My first one was Taekwondo. And one of the things they tell you in like ATA Taekwondo, it's the kid stuff. I understand. But one of the things they tell you is that a white belt can still teach a black belt something. Right? You can have a kid who like tries to do something because it seems like instinctual. It seems like the most obvious way to do it. And you're like, wow, if I hadn't seen you do that and somebody and another black belt in the ring with me would have done that, I would have got my ass kicked. Right. So the idea is that even the youngest can teach the oldest and the oldest can teach the youngest. Right. So that's why you have to sort of be open to those things. And I've always kind of took that to heart, thinking like, okay, if I talk to these girls, I'm having this conversation, I don't expect to win because there's no winning, right? But the conversation itself is still valuable because it might give me something along the way that I can use in a book, or that I can use to build up a different principle, or maybe it reinforces a principle that I already have that's existing and I never thought of it that way. So there is reason to go and do those things. So when I do podcasts with like if people will hit me up and say, Rollo, we come on my podcast. Okay, sure. What's it about? Oh, it's about red pill stuff. And you go and you look at the podcast and they've got like, they're under 1,000 subs. I'll still do it. I'll do your podcast because I might learn something from a white belt.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll go and do it just if I think that there's going to be a really good conversation. So I think we kind of like handicap ourselves when we go, oh, she's just a ratchet 304. You don't want to have a conversation with her. But when Mike is talking with her, she's speaking from a position of emotionalism, and I knew where she was coming from. That clip that was at the very end of the video clips that I was putting out there. When I sort of reconsidered that little exchange, I stepped in at that point because I knew that there wasn't going to be any there's never going to be any sort of meeting of the minds between Mike and this girl because she's talking about like emotionalism, and I've seen this happen before, so I knew where it was going. And she said something to the effect of like, well, your rationality and your science and your evolutionary psychology and Evo Bio, whatever, can't explain everything about human beings, and we're all individuals, and we're all emotional beings, and we're in our feminine energy, and Venus is aligned with Pluto, and so I saw that coming. And if you've read my 4th book, you probably know where I'm going with this. There was it's in the introduction of the book. Please go get religion. I spent 3 years of my life fucking doing that book, man. I mean, I'm glad you liked the first book, but I put a lot of work into book 4. But in the introduction of that book, I explain how imagination is still necessary. Like, I'm not I wouldn't want to be Mr. Spock, man. I like painting. I like drawing. I like imagining things. I think one of the reasons like a lot of people are frustrated with like Star Wars and like, all these offerings of like, the next Marvel movie or what, I think the reason why a lot of people are frustrated with modern fiction is because it sucks. That's number one. But they're frustrated because it's not imaginative. It's usually a hack of something else. By the way, I finally saw Alien Romulus, and I watched Alien Romulus, and it's good. I liked it. It was fun. It was a roller coaster. It was very reminiscent of Aliens, of the second movie, right? And I thought it was really good, and I understood all of the Easter eggs that were in there. Like the pulse rifle. Yeah, exactly. Okay. I remember that scene too. And they borrowed a lot from all of the movies, really. If you think about even Alien 3, like when the newborn at the end of the spoiler alert, the newborn at the end of the movie, that's straight out of Alien. Or that's Alien 4, actually, is what that is. That's the last one with Sigourney in it. And I like how it tied up all the loose ends of the Prometheus movies, Alien Covenant. And it tied everything together, and it was great, but it didn't do anything new. I'm glad we've got all the bases are covered. I'm waiting for the sequel. I'm cautiously optimistic about the sequel. And the other thing that was great about it was they didn't use any big name actors.
Yes, I like that too.
It
didn't take away from
beautiful
the story.
Do that more, right? Because you're not expecting anything from you. You're not typecast. Mm-hmm. And then they used is it Ian Holm who was Ash in the first movie, the android, and that was like
CGI.
It was totally CGI. I was like, I believed it from like, right? Isn't Ian Holm dead? And he actually is dead. Yeah, that was, and they used his voice and his likeness. That scared me more than anything else in the movie, because I know what the face huggers do. I don't know what this motherfucker's gonna do. Yes, but it was good because it's the reason why those movies, when they first came out, became franchises is because they were imaginative, and there's something about imagination is rooted in emotions, right? You want to know what's possible. And so the reason I was bringing up my 4th book is in the intro to that book, I think it's the Einstein quote, like, what's more important, intelligence or knowledge or imagination? Of course, Einstein says, well, it's imagination. Like, no, it's both. Because knowledge informs imagination then informs knowledge, right? So at least that's the way I look at it. So you can't, unless you know like what's possible, physically possible, then you can't imagine what could be possible. And I think it might have been Westworld that brought this up. I think it was in the last season of Westworld, and they mentioned in there that there is actually a particular part of the human brain that is responsible for imagination and hope. And it's part of I think the midbrain, and you remove that, you remove the humanity from somebody. You remove somebody's ability to experience emotion or experience reason too. You remove a part of their humanity by doing that. So I'm not willing to sort of just say like, oh well, emotions are unimportant. They're very, very important. But they're not a basis for building your fucking life off of, man, or building a body politic over, or a social order over. Feels before reals is a fucking failure. We need rationality and reason. It's not follow your heart, it'll never lead you astray. Bullshit. You want to know why we're in such a fucked up state right now? And thank God Trump's coming into office tomorrow or the day after. But wokeism, I brought this up too. It was like all this stuff about people keep talking about. People finally feel safe to talk shit about wokeism, right? Or wokeism, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Right? I call them wokesies with a Z, a Z and an I. But people are finally feeling comfortable with really talking about the woke. And the more I see people are critical about woke ideology or woke social structures, whatever the fuck you want to call it, the more I see that it's really based on a feminine female psychology, psyche. And again, I brought it up in one. You want to know why I picked these clips? This is why I do. The one that I did of myself, where I'm wearing white and I'm on. It was a Danza project, by the way. Was because I was trying to explain the difference between how men structure and organize society versus how women structure and organize society. So men do it hierarchically, as you probably have heard me say a million times, and women do it in the round, right? That's why egalitarianism, that's why communitarianism, that's why socialism seems like a good idea to the female mindset, right? And if you disagree with that, you get canceled. We are the woke. You will do what we tell you. And the woke philosophy is primarily based on female psychology when it comes to organizing society. That's what I was getting into in that clip. And so, but what does that entail? It entails feels before reals. You want to know why we have DEI and the Los Angeles is burning? You want to know why, why we still have, we've opened up combat in military positions in the army or whatever, but no woman is taking it. Well, we want them to feel like they could. If you feel like you want to, do 4 pull-ups and fire an M16, whatever. I don't know what the weapon is of choice is today, but if you feel like you want to go and do that, you have the ability to do that. If you feel like you want to be a firefighter, yeah, well, but the problem is like when reality and empiricism smashes headlong into your feelings, you get the LA fires. you get what you call it? You get who's the boxer, the male boxer in female Olympic boxing. That's who you get as a result of that. So it's time we start looking at organizing society from a fundamentally hierarchical male perspective. Does that mean patriarchy? Maybe. Does that mean accepting responsibility and authority for men? Definitely. But when I see the clash between, and I get it, another reason why it's good to have these conversations with the girls here is you're not going to see that happen in any other format. You're not going to see this happen. So like if the girl at the end of the table, I wish I would have remembered her name. But when she's going at Mike, I'm trying to be the medium in here and say, this is why you guys are having this clash right now, because you're speaking emotionalism and he's speaking rationalism or empiricism, whatever you want to call it. And then I explained to her how men process emotion differently than women do. And we know this now. We didn't before. Until we plotted the human genome, until we started taking evolutionary psychology seriously, evolutionary biology seriously, men and women are more dissimilar in our psyches, are more dissimilar than we are similar. And up until recently, people would fight me on that. And I remember as far back as like 2012, I made that observation. I said, we are more different than we are alike. People are like, oh, because I had like shit on their religion all of a sudden. And their religion is the blank slate. The religion is men and women can be anything they want to be. No, they fucking can't, right? I mean, I'm a 56-year-old white guy. I am not going to play power forward for the fucking Knicks, okay? That's not going to happen in my lifetime, okay? And I accept that. I'm good with that. I understand the empirical truth behind the reasons why that could never be. But it doesn't make me feel good. I want to be the power forward for the Knicks. Doesn't matter. Fuck your feelings, right? No one cares. See? Nobody cares. But so I'm trying to explain this to her, and I'm saying, look, men, I think one of the things that women have to have explained to them, and hope maybe this podcast will help them a little bit, is when I start talking about instinct, emotion, and reason, I generally like focus on emotion and reason because that's usually the point of conflict between men and women. Instinct is also very powerful too, I have to admit. But again, the way that we process emotions, like the way men process emotions, is entirely different than the way, especially negative emotions, is entirely different than how women do. That's why it makes me fucking sick to my stomach when I listen to like somebody like Justin Baldoni or these mealy mouth guys who want to tell you like, oh, this is what a real man is, or fucking what is it? Scott Galloway wants to tell you like, oh yeah, what was it? They did these polls. They did these polls of women, and you know what they found? They found that there are 3 top reasons why women are attracted to men. Number 3 was kindness. Really. Number 2 was intelligence. And number 1 was emotional availability, or fucking who knows, right?
Trauma.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, 6 foot tall, finance, blue eyes, trust fund. Did I miss one? I'm trying to make it rhyme. No, man. The dark triad personality traits, I can show you like dozens of studies how women just love. They like the bad guys, man.
They love being nagged.
They love, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or, danger. They want danger, but they also want safety too, right? They want I could read you the Dalrock quote, the roller coaster, right? Women want danger. They want the roller coaster ride, but they want to also have assurances that if everything goes to hell, that some responsible adult is there to turn the machine off if things get too scary for them. That's what he referred to as the roller coaster ride. They want to be able to like drive the car at 140 miles an hour until it careens off the road, but then a parachute deploys at the last minute, right? And because they want that thrill, but they don't want it so much that it's actually dangerous, right? Because they want that thrill of feeling alive. This is my theory, nobody else's, but one of the reasons I think women are prescribed SSRIs, antidepressants, so much is because of that desire. Like, I'm unhappy. Happy. I'm leaving you, Bruce. Why? I'm unhappy. Well, first of all, happiness is bullshit. No one's ever going to be happy. You can only do happy. And half the reason why women are unhappy is because they're not doing jack shit. Right? They're not doing happy. They're not doing things that make them happy. They think that if they take this pill, they'll be happy. If they drink more, they'll be happy. If they do this, they'll be happy. The happiness is not ladies, if you're watching this, happiness is not a permanent state. I'm sorry that pop culture has convinced you that you are deserving of a lifetime of endless nirvanic happiness. That's not how happiness works. Happiness is a proximate state. It's a proximate goal, a proximate outcome. It's not an ultimate outcome. There's no happiness at the end of the rainbow. I'll be married, I'll be happy. No, you fucking won't, because you have to do happy. You can do things that will make you feel happy, right? Because happiness is an emotion. And that's what I was trying to explain to this chick down at the corner here, is that emotions are fleeting. They're a way that emotions are just a way we process information and stimuli from the outside world, right? How do I feel about the saber-toothed tiger that's about to eat me? I'm fucking scared, man. That fear, that's a base emotion. I am fucking afraid that I'm going to die, right? Or the Black Panther is going to jump out of the dark jungle at night, or the snake or the spider is going to be in the baby's room and kill the baby. The dingoes are going to come and eat your baby. Fear is an emotion. Happiness is an emotion. Sadness, anxiety, depression, it's all emotive states. And what are they meant to do? They're meant to move you from one physical state to another. And usually it has to do, as I said, with either survival or reproduction. Okay. So you want to know why you get hangry? Because the anger part of that, the frustration part of the hunger, the angry part of hungry, is what motivates you to go and run down small prey, right? It's what motivates you to go out to, damn it, I'm just going to go get in the car and go to Taco Bell. Burrito Supreme, here I come. But that's what would you do it for? If it wasn't hangry, let's just say it was like chillery, right? Would you get up to go do it and go eat? No, because you're gonna die if it was anything other than like being frustrated or like motivating you to get out of your fucking recliner to go down to Taco Bell. No, if like, what else would it be? I'm sad. I'm sadry. If hunger made you sad, you die. You just be dead. You can't pair hungry with anything else except for anger, because that's what motivates you to go get it, right? So once again, I realize this. I'm being facetious, but the point of emotion is to move you from one state to another state, and those states either have to do with survival or reproduction. So I'm trying to explain this in as entertaining a fashion as I possibly can, because you got to make it storytelling with women. You can't tell them data and stats, as much as like me and Mike try to do this occasion, foolishly try to do this on occasion. We can bury you in stats and Dr. David Buss, everybody drink. We can bury you in data, and women's eye, they'll just be, yeah, okay, whatever. The show's back on. So you try to make it somewhat relatable, but again, it's feels before reals. And when I was explaining how emotions aren't like magic fairy dust that falls out of the fucking hot heavens, or how emotions are not magic. One of the things that I hear all the time from women is like, I was vibing with this guy. All you're saying is you're trying to give a name to the emotion that you're feeling when this guy is talking to you, and you guys are connecting sort of a conversation. I can break down the scientific side of the empirical side of like why you feel the way you do because of this conversation, but women have to give a name to it. And the name is vibing, right? Or, I'm in my feminine energy and he's in his masculine energy, right? All that means is that a guy is conventionally masculine. His behaviors show that he has a dominant personality. He's in shape. He looks good. He knows his shit. He understands his own value, all this. But then they're not going to enumerate all those things that I just did. So they call it your masculine energy, feminine energy. And one of the things that I wrote about, again, this is also from my fourth book, Religion. I already made mention of the principle of knowledge versus imagination. I think they're equally important. One feeds the other, and vice versa. The other thing I put in there was a great quote, and it's by Arthur C. Clarke, who is a science fiction writer and during the 50s and 60s, also a futurist. Okay. And one of the things he wrote about, or one of the quote that I always come back to that I put in the book, is that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So if we don't understand something, our imagination kicks in and we say it's the gods, right? Or we say it's the spirit world, or we say it's a ghost of Aunt May, right? Or whatever it is. Like, for instance, as I was saying before, masculine energy, feminine energy, that's all that is a sufficiently advanced technology for women who can't really grasp or understand the magic of vibing with that guy. So one of the things I think that pisses women off a lot about the red pill, and a lot about guys, well, certainly guys like Mike, but me included as well, is that we probably stupidly try to explain the game to women rather than playing the game with women. And that's something that I've learned to be very sort of diplomatic about, because what happens is this, is if I'm talking to one of the girls here and I start vibing with her, and it seems like I'm agreeing with what she says, like guys who are my worst critics is like just these spurgs come out of the woodwork. And like, I can't believe Rollo is simping for that girl. I'm not simping with that girl. I'm vibing with that girl. Because I know the science behind it. I know the mechanics behind it. I also know that women would rather play the game than be told that they are playing a game. And here's what the game you're playing. And here's what you're going to say next. And here's why because I'm an alpha male and you're responding to my machismo and blah, blah, blah. I can, nuts and bolts and turn it into a mathematical equation. But that tastes like shit to women who speak emotionalism and not empiricism. It's not satisfying. It's not, it's like watching shitty science fiction, right?
They want to stay plugged in.
Yeah. I'm speaking empiricism and they're speaking magic. And unless I can like sort of turn that empiricism into something magical, then we don't have that communication going on there. I used to get really frustrated. With Hotep Jesus, right? Because I remember back in like 2021, 2022, when I was doing interviews, I was doing like tag team shows with Hotep on Fresh and Fit. And I was Mike on that show, right? I was Mr. Wizard. I'm the guy who has all the stats and all the psychology and all this, I'm sitting there in a lab coat, right? and Hotep Jesus understands everything that I'm saying, but when he interacts with the girls, it's just like he throws some dreadlocks on you, throws that smile on you, and fucking like he's like, yeah, girl, I understand what you're saying. I'm vibing with you. We'll get, and he just like he's smooth as fucking goose shit, man. And the girls react to it and they respond to it. He knows everything I know. He's just delivering it in a language that they can appreciate. Me, on the other hand, I'm going, well, here's the game and here's what you're playing. Oh, okay, Mr. Wizard. And there's no magic to that. And that was one of the things that I told the girls. I said that on Access Vegas. I said, the problem that you're having is like, because I'm explaining this to you, it destroys the magic that you want to have. And one of the girls even said, yeah, you're right. Because it dispels all of this imagination. It dispels the emotional investment in it. I used it on today's thumbnail or when I was broadcasting today's show. One of my quotes is no man has ever reasoned a woman into bed. You can emotionally bring her into your bed, but you're never going to reason her into bed. That's gamma male thinking, right? That's like, that's Excel spreadsheet thinking is what it is. Like, okay, I check all of these lists here. Look, I'm in great shape. My body fat percentage is at 12%. I've been taking Tren for the last year. I'm highly intelligent. I have 4 degrees.
Here's my resume.
Here's my resume. Yeah, here's my Excel. Yeah, here's why you should fuck me today. I guarantee you are not getting laid. Guarantee it. If you make Excel spreadsheets to explain why you're the best selection for and guys do this. People keep talking about this movie that was in the 80s. It was called, is it The Last American Virgin? I think it was. Or it was Fast Times at Ridgemont High. You don't care if she stays, lays, prays, or stays or something like that. I can't remember what it was. But they're like trying to dig up all of these quotes from these old Brat Pack movies from the 80s, which I really enjoy, Breakfast Club and shit like that. But one of those I think was Last American Virgin, and then they started pulling quotes from Last American Virgin. They go, "Look how red pill these Generation X guys were." yes, we were. We knew what we were getting into because we were interested in getting laid. That's why Gen Z don't care. They don't want to. They just want to sit at home and fucking stroke off. Man.
Look at my portfolio. Are you wet yet?
Or there was always the Anthony Michael Hall character, right? What Weird Science? We've got to make it was Kelly LeBrock. We got to build Kelly LeBrock to make our tits bigger. But the principle of it, anyways, was very much rooted in that gamma male want for trying to scientifically figure out what it is that chicks want, so that guys could be that, and then say, "Look, we polled 1,000 women to ask them what they're looking for in a guy, right? And they want him to be 6 feet tall, 6-figure income, 6-pack abs, 10-inch cock, finance, blue eyes, whatever, blah, 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 right? And then they embody all of this, and they still go fuck the bad boy at the party, right? Because you are speaking the language of empiricism with your Excel spreadsheet, and Chad or whoever the fuck, Ryler, Brock the bartender is speaking the language. Hotep Jesus is speaking the language of fucking of emotionalism, and they get it, and they look good, and they're probably doing everything on the spreadsheet, but they're delivering it in a much different fashion, in a language that women can understand. So let's see, clear out a few of these. The best way to regulate OnlyFans, I think, is the same way you get rid of Amazon's monopoly. You break them up into several companies. That was the same way they ended the Standard Oils. Yes, also the baby Pac Bell, the Baby Bells. You guys probably don't even know what I'm talking about. But telephone companies of the late 70s and early 80s. had a monopoly and they had antitrust suits against them and they broke them up. Same thing. Will it happen with OnlyFans? I don't know if that's an industry that you can actually regulate like that. Alpha seed, beta need. Number one, alpha seed, beta need. Number two, hypergamy. These are the two most core foundational things. Everything else, everything I've seen boils down to this. Thank you for your work. You are welcome, sir. Also, I would add one more thing. Well, alpha seed, beta need. Remember that if she's breaking rules for you, she sees you as more alpha. If she's making rules for you, run. She does not. She sees you as comfort and provisioning. Rational Trucker, love the escape clause. Thank you. You can thank Clytus too for that. He actually did more work than I did. All I did was write the script. So, easy way to illustrate to others the dangers of marriage today. I love the tea. I love the tea. Yes. This tea? I wore this on purpose today. When is Sexton coming back on? When is he coming on at all? I don't know. I would love to have him in. I talked to him. I talked to him before Christmas. No, it was after Christmas, I think. But he just called me up out of the blue, and he explained to me that how women were trying to weaponize prenuptial arrangements, contracts, whatever. I think I told you guys this story. He made me aware of this one case that he was working on. I don't know the name, so I can't really sell him out. But one of his clientele was this guy who was in his 30s. He just came into about $10 million. He works in finance, and was on track to probably be worth about $30 million. And not unlike the guys in crypto, shout out to you guys. The guy had spent so much time, making money and focusing on chasing excellence, right? That he is the perfect fall guy. He becomes the perfect mark. And so he got involved with this chick who's like 25 years old. He's like 30, 31, right? And he wants to marry this girl who's 25, which is a mistake in the beginning, but I digress. So he insists on a prenuptial agreement, right? Well, she, of course, agrees, but she takes the prenuptial agreement back to her attorney, who writes it up in her favor. That says, basically saying, like, if you do these things, if you cheat on me, if you do this, it's going to cost you this. If you do, if you're not worth X amount of dollars by the time you're 45, then this clause comes into power or whatever. And essentially took that the prenuptial agreement and weaponized it and turned it into something that would work in her favor, which of course completely defeats the purpose of a guy insisting on a prenuptial agreement. And the only reason Sexton had come across it was because he was the attorney for the guy, and he looked at this and he couldn't believe what he was seeing in this contract. And he's like, I would highly advise you simply not to marry this girl. Just don't. I don't know if he did. I don't know if it's still on, but if I get James in here, I'll probably ask him about that first. My icks are sink full of dishes, unwashed clothes, and no dinner when I come home. All right. I'll tell you, you want to know something's funny? We were talking about icks once again. We always do on Access Vegas. It's almost like it's part of like the show. It's like a routine. That's why. That was one of the reasons I asked the girls about guys sleeping in the daytime, because it seemed to me like that might be an ick. And of course it was. Or do you have your water bottle? Do you have a water bottle with you? Do you have a hydro flask?
No,
you just have those
right
bottles.
now.
Okay. No, I have a hydro flask.
Yeah.
And I like to put stickers on it. Sorry, my daughter and my niece got me into it. Don't look at me weird. But one of the girls said, "Oh, I hate those hydro flasks because it makes guys look like they have a sippy cup." I'm like, "Oh," because I always take mine to the gym and everything too. They're handy, man.
Sorry, I drink water efficiently.
I know. Would you rather I drink it out of plastic bottles and microplastics and they ruin my testicles or something like that? Yes, I would. It is. It's an efficient way to drink. You're not drinking out of plastic. You're not contributing to like the pollution of the oceans.
And it stays cold.
Like, it's brilliant. And then we have even on this refrigerator, we have refrigerated water. It just comes right out and it's filtered, right? No, it's a sippy cup. Get the fuck out of here.
No, but so I asked about that. So then I thought about this. I had whenever I do a show, my wife and I talk about it. Like when we get back, that was a great show. I like this part. I didn't like that part. Whatever. And then the day afterwards, I'm sitting in a hot tub with my wife, right? Yeah. And she's like, "What do I do that's an ick to you?" I'm like, "Oh, God,
here it starts."
Oh, nothing, babe. You're perfect. No. You know what one of my icks is? And why, ladies? Why do you fucking do this? Okay. We have this area in my house. Have you seen my new place? You haven't seen my new place yet. Okay. So I have this one area that's like attached to my kitchen, but it's like the coffee area. Like that's where the Keurig is. That's where my espresso machine is. I'm into coffee, as you know. And I did it up myself. I put like the coffee hangers and everything. It looks beautiful. It's like Bed Bath and Beyond. And this always happens is there's always a fucking spoon. And it's got creamer, it's got some fucking, coffee creamer and stuff. And it's always, I'm like, you want me to like keep the toilet seat down? You want me to keep the shit off of the little thing, apparently I'm not allowed to like put like cologne or something on my fucking, meanwhile, hers is like just packed full of makeup and everything. Mine has to be like nothing, right? Very, very minimal. I'm very minimalist when it comes to my bathroom setup. Not because I am, but because that's the way it is, right? And then every fucking morning, I don't understand this. And it's not just my wife. My wife does this. It's the spoon. It's like we have the little tray for the spoon to sit. It's over here. I'm turning into Aaron Clary. It's over here. And I'm like, what the fuck? Or it's on like a napkin with the thing. I'm like, why do we have this tray here if you're gonna? And it's always, and it's the used creamer because I drink all my coffee black, right? Like my soul. I like my coffee like I like my metal, black. But so I don't ever use a stirrer or anything like that. But so here's the spoon, and it's not just my wife; it's my mother-in-law, it's my daughter, it's my niece, it's my mother. All of them did the same thing. What the is it genetic? Why is this here? It's like, well, we need to go. The same women who would be beside themselves if there was shit in the sink or there's dishes to be done, but the spoon's okay. Why? That's an ick. I have one ick. That's my one ick is that the spoon by the fucking coffee, man. No idea. I bet that Mike calls or texts in 1 hour and 15 minutes. He hasn't called yet, but that's a good. I'll take your bet though. We'll see. He usually does. God, I should have done this, but I needed to go. I wanted to go to the LVO yesterday, but Mike invited me to go play paintball with Dan Bilzerian at Dan Bilzerian's place, right? And I was if I wasn't going to the LVO, I would have done it too. I was like, God, I almost think I should have, but I totally would have missed the cigar bar if I'd have done that. Hey Rollo, I've had a thought that if beta blue pill men of today were around during the patriarchy, they would still be they would still be facing the same issues despite many of them thinking society would be in their favor. Is that correct? Yeah, I think I would align with that. And the reason for that is because human nature doesn't really change all that much. Technology changes, times change, society changes, but like the basic machine, the human machine, hasn't changed much in 200,000 years. I mean, maybe a bit, maybe psychologically we have a little bit, but we're still the same. We're hairless murder apes. Thank you, Mike. That's what I'm going to name my next band, Hairless Murder Apes. But the machine, the human machine, hasn't changed all that much. And so, in fact, that was a conversation I had with James Sexton a while back. I think he was the one that told me this, is that we're basically hunter-gatherer tribesmen in what would basically be medieval society with godlike technology. And so if you take those combinations and mix them together, then you have modern human society of 2025, right? We're basically the same hunter-gatherer tribesmen living in more or less medieval society, and we have godlike technology. And so, like, between all the, if you can imagine, like, if you could write science fiction in that genre, you'd be a success. By the way, I got to give him his props. Ryan Stone wrote a hell of a fucking book, man. What is it? The Dog Walker. It's his first sort of try at fiction, and he did pretty good. I enjoyed the book. He sent me a nice signed printer's proof copy of it, which is what everybody does, because when they send, like, Amazon will send you like probably 10 of these, and you're like, what am I going to do? It has like the watermark on it. So, but I know what it is, so I can appreciate it as an author. But he wrote a really great book. So if you haven't picked it up, now is the time to go get it. It's on Amazon. It's called The Dog Walker. It is by Ryan Stone. Also, that's now available on Amazon is this anthology of, I would say, pulp fiction by the guys that I play Dungeons and Dragons with on Masculine Geek.
Yeah.
So there's an anthology that's out. The people want to know where my story is. It'll be in the next in the sequel or the next one that comes after this one. So that also is available on Amazon as well. So I'll give you the links to that later. Let's see. The issue with dating virgin Christian women is its ultimate form of leveraging sex for compliance, which would inherently be unattractive. Yes. No. Yes. She's dictating the relationship or God alignment. Ride? I don't know what, or ride? Or die. Yeah. See, the problem is if I give you like my critique on like Christian girls, people are going to go, oh, well, that's because he's an atheist. He worships Odin. No, I've wrote exactly about that in my fourth book, In Religion. So the thing about, I think one of the reasons why Christianity is so appealing to Western women is primarily because it's based on forgiveness. And nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing that at all, but I am saying that there is a certain draw to it. You'll notice that most women, other than Brittany Renner, would much rather convert to Christianity than any other religion, because Islam will hold them bitches accountable, right, from the jump. Whereas there's like single women's ministry, there's single mothers ministry, there's empowered women of Christ ministry. I don't know, whatever the fuck it is, right? There's always I've said this on several occasions, the prodigal son narrative is always going to be popular with tradcons for sure, but like certainly Protestant primarily evangelical Christians are going to be the ones who are going to be more accommodating, let's say, of female nature. I would argue that it primarily founded on female psychology. The church has become way feminized these days. So what are you sending me? Oh, that's fine. No worries.
Yep.
You could just tell me. You don't have to text it. We're all casual here, especially you.
Don't want to interrupt the greatness.
No, that's fine. No, I was gonna say is I think the idea of being marriage minded in the first place almost puts you in a beta male category by default. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong. I'm not even saying it should be that way. I'm just saying that that's the way women will primarily view a guy who is like, I'm saving myself for marriage. Well, you're saving yourself till I'm 30. And then when I've had my fun, and if you're still around, I might want to have you jump through a few hoops to prove yourself to me. And then we can go and live happily ever after with 2.5 children and a golden retriever in the front yard. You basically you're categorizing yourself. I've met several guys who say, well, Rollo, I date with intent. Well, good for you, but you're going to be lonely until you're probably 32, until you're ready to accept the fact that like women want to have their hoe phase, for lack of a better term. They want to, they're not interested in monogamy until they've sort of tapped out exhausted all the resources, right? Or exhausted all their other options. So if Brock, the bartender, is unwilling to commit, well, don't worry. Tyler, the Christian, is going to be waiting for her when she's 30 years old, right? If that's you and you're okay with that, then you basically put yourself into a beta male category. You're good at providing. Like every one of the guys they're mighty men of Christ, or mountain moving mighty men of manhood, whatever. Those guys who have the the groups or whatever it is where they're, going, they have a prayer circle and then they go lift weights and they go barbecue, I don't know, prime rib or brisket, whatever. And more power to you. If that's your thing, go do your thing, but you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Desexualizing yourself as a guy puts you at a credible disadvantage. So, or not, I'm not saying you have to be like walk around with a heart on. I'm just saying, like, if you're unwilling to embrace your own sort of animal alpha sexual nature as a guy that women instinctively understand, and you want to and replace that with I'm a good provider, I'm a martyr waiting to happen, and you should want to fuck me because I'm a martyr. Don't do that. Martyrdom is not game. Martyrdom does not get women wet. Okay. Same way as you never reason a woman into bed. It's the same thing. These guys, they're doing the same game, by the way. Is like, I'm a good provider. I'm marriage minded. What is it? Dan Bilzerian's not a flex. I'm a flex, right? Because I'm sacrificial. I'm willing to sacrifice myself for the greater good of the Tao, right? I'm altruistic. Real men love Jesus, right? Real men pray every day. Okay, but what you're doing is you're essentially doing the same thing Excel spreadsheet guy does. You're explaining the game to women who don't want to have it explained to them. They want to play the game. They think that a flex is going on some, 30 second to a minute 45, reel on Instagram and explain what great guys they are. You're making the same list. I've got these qualities that women say they want. And so here I got it right here. And I just can't understand why these good Christian women are still being misled by these dark triad sons of bitches like Brock the bartender. Don't worry, she'll mature and wise up by the time she's 30. She'll want to get right with God, and then I'll be there. Then I'll shoot my shot. And you know what? She'll be happy to take it too, because you're going to be forgiving. You're going to, it's okay. Don't worry about it, girl. You made bad. Your prefrontal cortex wasn't fully developed.
That's why Scotty doesn't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Now, if you're already playing a game in which you're already the loser, you've already lost the game, but you're still waiting for your turn. Well, Brock didn't have to wait. He doesn't have any there's no rules for him. There's rules for you. There's no rules for him. But you won't care, because if men were better, then women would be better, right? If Brock didn't exist, and if there were no dark triad guys, then women would be forced to like the good guys like you. No, that's evolutionary. They want the bad guy. It's called hybristophilia. That's why they want to fuck rapists and inmates and political dissidents and mass shooters and everything else. It's carnal. It's evolutionary. It's not. There's too many instances of hybristophilia for it to be just sort of like this personality disorder. Okay. Like, it's the same thing with the teacher student, like the female teacher, male student, statutory grape epidemic that's been going. What are we up to? We're up to 79 separate incidents of that in 2024. I calculated. Those are the ones that came to me on via Twitter or some other way. So what I was documenting, all of those cases from February of last year to December of last year, 79 individual cases. All those girls cannot be fucked up in the head. All those women there must be damaged. All 80 of them? No, there's something that is evolutionary in that. Maybe it's because of proximity. Maybe it's because of the environment. Maybe it's because it's easier. It's like why are we fat now? Well, because we have easy access to high calorie dense food. That's pretty much you could say seed oils and sugar and okay.
Abundance.
Sure, I'm good. But you know what? If you couldn't, get Uber Eats to deliver it to you, then we have a much different conversation. But it's the same thing. So maybe it's proximity. Maybe it's ease. Maybe it's just like women realize that there's a separate standard of justice for them than there will be for men, which is true. But it can't just be
because every single one of them is damaged goods. Like I keep saying, it's like not every woman is a hybristophile, but only women are hybristophiles. So there is some truth to that. And so I think maybe we ought to explore that, Mr. Evolutionary Psychologist guy, instead of trying to turn incels into terrorists, wasting our time and wasting our tax dollars and everything else on that stupid shit. But you won't touch teachers and students, female teachers and male students. You won't touch that because that's unflattering to female nature. Won't touch that. Anyways, sorry, I'll keep going. Rolo, hypothetically, my favorite, how would women adapt in a future utilitarian society? They would find ways to fuck it up. No, they would find ways to be more. So the thing is like if you even in the most hostile, most like oppressive societies, there's still art. There's still, like even if you look at like best I can think of like Mao's China, right? If you look at like the people's revolution, there's still art. It was all propaganda, but there's still art. There's still music that was going on at that time. There's still things that you would say are imaginative, or I don't know how many because I don't read Mandarin, but I'm sure there's probably literature that was written at that time. You're not going to stop people expressing themselves artistically. That's one of the things I think that if there's a commonality between men and women, I think our creative drive, and we do it in different ways, don't get me wrong, but I think the creative drive to be a good musician, for example, or to be a good artist or whatever, or a good writer, I think that's universal. I don't think that's like either male or female. So I think men and women do it differently, obviously, because we approach our art from different perspectives. But like I've seen, like I follow a lot of musicians on Instagram, and they're not all metal players. Like I follow this one girl and Margot. I follow Margot. She's a bass player, I think, and a cellist, and she's just a fantastic musician, right? I'll follow her just because she's a talented musician, because I think music is sort of like this universal language. I try to educate you guys. I try to give you some some good juju with some of my videos. And I played that one video of the guy, I forget the dude's name, but he was a professor of music, and he's talking about like how music like teaches us to love, and it gives us, it's a universal language, right? So like he runs through, I think it's an E minor scale, right? And he plays it like Vivaldi would play it, and then he plays how the Italians would play it. Then he plays it how the Indians would play it, right? It's the same scale. It's just like there's like pass through, passing notes, or there might be like a flourish at the end of it, or there might be like you hold it for a little bit long, for a beat longer, and that's what he plays it in a Greek scale,
different
right?
tempo.
Yeah, different tempo, different thing, and it's the same scale. It's just done just slightly differently in the Middle East than it is done in Renaissance Europe, right? So, and I thought that was really interesting. And I think that's one of the things that we kind of like human beings as being musicians in general. I think we need to sort of understand that that's part of, like I said, that imagination, that little node that's part of our brains here that like I said, we will express it differently, but we still have the need to express it, I guess. So, I was watching Landman. She really will bring a date with your funeral. Yeah, I see what you did there. Yeah. Well, who is that's Demi Moore that plays?
Is it? Yeah, I think it.
Demi Moore, who played the guy he just died at the end. I don't spoiler alert. The dude dies from the heart attack, if you didn't know. But it's a week ago, so I guess I can talk about it. But no, the Demi Moore was the wife of that guy whose name I can't remember. I was kind of hoping he'd last at least another season. He was actually a pretty interesting character.
Right. They didn't flesh him out too much. I mean, he just played the character archetype.
Yeah. And now they made Tommy the
main
CEO.
Man.
I was like, fuck, that was quick.
That's badass.
Yeah, they did that. That was pretty interesting. And Cooper's an interesting character too. He was kind of like, I knew that it would take a while for him to build up. I like Taylor Sheridan's writing anyways, but like building up Cooper to what he is now is just
gaining his confidence.
Fucking genius, right? Man. It's hero's journey is what it is. And yeah, I could tell you probably by the end of the season 2, he's going to be a completely different character. He'll be the heroic archetype by the end of season 2.
Of course, I'm now going to give it away to you. Women and men have more in common with other animals. Yeah, cats and dogs. I like my coffee like I like my women, cold and bitter. All right. Fucking jokers. My favorite coffee joke. I like my women like I like my coffee, ground up and put in the freezer. Really? Yes, my soul is black too. You know, it's funny. I don't know if you guys have noticed. Some people have noticed this. When I go out, and if I go to Babes in Toyland, sometimes when I'm on the show, if I go out and I'm going to clubs or something like that, I'm doing something. I have this one ring, and it's my black onyx ring.
Yeah.
And it is exactly the same. I made sure I got it. It's the exact replica of the ring that Lucifer Morningstar wears. There's actually a subplot to it. It's like where Lilith's soul is trapped in this thing. And so when people ask me about that, I go, it imprisons the blackened soul of Michaela Peterson. Yeah. Who, by the way, is taking it on the chin a lot lately too. Anyways, so when I'm talking about instinct, emotion, and reason, people go, well, what the fuck is Rollo talking about? Well, I will tell you. It's a concept called the triune brain theory. And this is the three-parted brain. And I explained this to the chick that was on Access Vegas in like more understandable terms, I think. There's the lizard brain right there, as I said before. That's the brain stem and the cerebellum. That's autopilot, fight or flight. One of the things I always talk about when I talk about instinct is like if I were to throw something at Kyle, he'd instinctively duck out of the way, right? So there's certain parts of our sort of our animal lizard hindbrain that is literally is autopilot, like your ability to breathe without having to think about breathing, right? Yeah. That's part of it. Autonomous nerves, instinct. But there's more to it than that. There's also the revulsion instinct. So like humans generally want to stay away from dead, rotting carcasses because of pathogens, or we stay away from like feces generally. And then there's other things like jealousy. It can be considered an instinct. Mate guarding, definitely instinctive. You might feel emotions because of mate guarding, but the actual behavior is inspired through an instinct, which is I need to, as I said before, emotions and such are usually based on, or usually to move you from one state to another that has something to do with survival or reproduction. When we talk about mate guarding or we feel jealousy as a result of that, the instinct is jealousy. The behavior and the emotions that you feel as a result of that prompt you to a behavior that is mate guarding, right? That is wanting to be, for your ladies, if you have a guy who's very possessive of you, it's usually because on some level of consciousness, he thinks he's got with a girl that's out of his league. And so he has to find some way to sort of protect her. No, bitch, you can't go out to a girls' night out at Zook. Fuck you, right? You can't go, guys who want to lay down I have boundaries. Okay. Well, it's better to discover boundaries than it is to declare boundaries, gentlemen. Would you like me to give you the boundary speech again? I will be happy to do so. It's better for boundaries to be discovered than to be talked about in the first fucking place, because you only learn from a hot stove. Anything else it will sound like insecurity. Put it that way. I love that. Oh, you're insecure. I love the insecurity thing. Ladies, like there's never been a more utilitarian rationale than, you're so insecure. Put it this way. If you feel guys, if you feel jealousy, like if you think that the reason why you do is because you think she's going to fuck around on you, right? You want to ensure paternity. There's nothing insecure about that. In fact, if anything, that's secure. That is security. It's like, I want security. I want I want certainties and assurances that any kid that comes out of that pussy is my kid, right? So how do we, in fact, that principle, certainty of paternity, is so important and so intrinsic to the male psyche that we have pushed it to the subconscious. It's so important that we will mate guard and we will feel jealousy and not know why, because our ancestors, in our ancestral past, the guys who felt jealousy, who were possessive, who actually did mate guarding behaviors and everything, they went on to pass on the genes that make you feel it today. So guys, if you feel jealousy, don't feel you're not insecure. You're just following your biological and evolutionary imperatives that have served your family line for millennia, for generations, since we were on the sub-Saharan savannas 200,000 years ago. There's nothing insecure about feeling jealousy whatsoever. You know, I mean, how you deal with that, please don't kill anybody. But it's the feeling of it is simply biological. It's simply evolution. Evo-psych is what it is. There's nothing insecure about it. If anything, I'd be insecure if I didn't feel it, right? Because ladies, if a guy's not at least somewhat possessive, somewhat secure about you, you're either with a guy who's like super fucking alpha and doesn't care because he's got so many hizzos that he can go and he can reproduce with anyways, or he's trying to, get assurances on his investment and his ROI, man. Like, I want to know that the kid that comes out of you is that. That's why men and women have different jealousy responses to infidelity. You want to know why do guys always ask me who I fucked and how it went down when I cheat on them? Because they want to know, is the kid theirs? Like, if a child is produced, that's why the guy's like, did he have a bigger dick than I? Did he fuck you in the kitchen? Did he fuck you in the bedroom? Did he fuck you in the bathroom? Did you get off? Did he bend you over the table? Did you, like, every little minute detail? And guys don't even know why they're asking that. Well, I mean, other than the fact that they just every yes pisses them off that much more. that might have something to do with it. But no, the reason they get into such graphic details because they want to know, did he get off? Did he spew inside of you? Because if he did, bye. Well, bye. That's what it's going to come down to. So anyways, let's get back to triune mind. So that's lizard brain right there, right? So jealousy response, definitely lizard brain. Instinctual responses, definitely lizard brain. Revulsion responses, hindbrain, lizard brain. Now, some of these are a mixture of others, right? So like you might feel something like if you feel revulsion, you might even feel like nausea because of that. You got to remember that for instinctive processing of instinctive processing of stimuli, let's just say, that can trigger emotional response too. So you got to remember you're going up the chain here. So you go from instinct to emotion to reason, right? So when we look at, I'm trying to think of what else is like the base emotions. If you look at, I think there's like 5 or 6 different base emotions. There's like happiness, sadness, fear is one. I'm trying to think of the others. There's at least 5, and depending on whose model you follow, there are 5 or 6 of them, right? All of those are inspired. They take place in the mammal brain, but they are inspired by situations and things that come from the instinctual brain. So now I'm going to also address this here in the beginning because a lot of people are going to say, well, Rollo, this has been disproven. People don't follow the triune mind theory. No, they did in 1960. And then the touchy-feely humanist bullshit, new age psychologists decided that this was inconvenient. And then they did their best to sort of like repress this or like dial it down. I think now in 2025, now knowing what we know about evolutionary psychology, we've plotted the human genome. We have a much better understanding of how the human brain works, although not a complete understanding, but we have a better understanding of how it works. I think it's time to revisit this and see what works and what's valid and what's valuable and what we can learn from this. Okay. So the reason I say that is because as we sort of, for lack of a better, dissect the human brain and, the male brain and the human brain or the female brain, we can see that the synapses are different. We can see through fMRI scanning, which we didn't have in 1960, right? But we do now, it's commonplace, right? So we can do brain scans and we can literally look at the synapses that are connected between men's brains and women's brains. And oddly enough, if you take those scans and you lay them on top of a man's brain and a woman's brain, they're like almost perfectly symmetrical. So like men's tend to be like more horizontal or more lateral, and women's tend to be more across, like across the hemispheres, right? So when you take those scans and you lay them on top of each other, they look like a perfect complement.
oddly enough, something Rollo Tomassi and those red pill fuckers have been saying for a long time, which is men and women are better together than we are apart. We are innate, natural, evolved complements to one another. And if you would like a illustration of that, all you've got to do is take those fMRI scans and lay them on top of each other, and suddenly it all becomes a much clearer picture. So don't go saying Rollo hates women, or Rollo is telling these guys to hate women. Like, no, if anything, I'm telling you not to hate women, and that we are natural, innate complements to one another. And that you want to know why we're so fucked up with men and women today is because we can't accept the fact that we're different. We're still clinging to this bullshit, blank slate horseshit. We're still clinging to social constructionism, emotionalism, egalitarianism, and the blank slate. All that stuff. We're still clinging to that because we don't know how, because all of our memes, all of our feel good quotes all depend on at least one aspect of those four things. So, okay. So getting back to it, then there's the mammal brain, which is the limbic system. That is responsible for emotions, memories, habits, and attachments. Attachments is kind of up in the air right now too. And the reason I'm pointing out that is because of the 4 laws of genetic behaviorism, the attachment theory is taking a lot of hits lately. So sorry, Chris Williamson and Prometheus guy or whatever his name is. Forget the guy who's on these kind of like the fat ginger kid with a beard or whatever. Well, always, I don't know if he's a psychologist or whatever, but he's really, really attached to attachment theory, right? Secure attachment, loose attachment, this attachment. It's like, no, because genetics really sets the stage for personality. Genetics, it's not your parents, it's not your attachment or anything like that. It's like, were you born with the hardware? Do you have the genetic predisposition for those personalities? It's not attachment so much as it is like it's downstream from biology. So, but getting back to it, mammal brain, limbic system, emotions is the important part here. And the reason why I say this is because when I talk, and I came up with, I wrote the series on instinct, emotion, and reason. It's like a 4 or 5 part series that I wrote. Some of it ended up, I think, in my 3rd book, just a touch of it, but this is before I even knew what triune mind theory was. And so I started talking about instinct, emotion, and reason, and the speed with which those processing systems work. And so I wrote about this back in like 2017, 2016, and I just called it instinct, emotion, and reason. And then I realized somebody hit me up and said, hey, that sounds a lot like triune mind theory. And I was like, oh, okay, or triune brain theory, whatever. And so I looked it up, and then I'm like, fuck, there's actually a theory to this. Of course, it's old. It's, I forget the guy's name. What is his name? Paul MacLean. He's the guy that, MacLean, 1960. This is not Jungian. This is not Freudian. This is Paul MacLean-ian. Okay. So this is another, diagram of this as well. If you look up triune brain theory, it's all over Google. You can find it easy. Brainstem and cerebellum, fight or flight, autopilot. Okay, fight or flight, that's instinctive. Dodging out of the way. Like the thing about instinct is it's kind of predicated on, well, reproduction and self-preservation or survival, right? And the way I sort of tie these two things together with instinct, emotion, and reason is things that we learn that can override what our natural instincts are. So don't think that the instinctive side of the lizard brain or the mammal brain, which is the emotional side of things, can't be overridden by learned behavior that is stored and maintained in the gray matter, in the human brain, the neocortex there, okay, which is the next part here, which is language, abstract thought, imagination, consciousness, reasoning, and rationalizing. Okay, so that's the empirical side of things. So if we look at this and we look at the difference between like the brain stem, the lizard brain, to the mammal brain, which is the limbic system there. And then we look at the human brain. Now, we take them all collectively and then they work synergistically. But if we take them in separate, if we isolate them and look at what their general purpose is, then we can understand what their sort of their synergistic or their collective thought and it comes down to, or collective
utility comes down to. Okay. So the way I put this is if we look at the human brain is mostly learned, right? Language, abstract thought. You have to learn this. Imagination, conscious reasoning, rationalizing. Those are things that are very slow. Okay. You have to, if you're going to learn, like learning a language, learning abstract thought, learning mathematics, learning rationalization, learning critical thought. Those very essential to human survival, very essential to reproduction as well, but very essential part of the human brain, right? When you get a lobotomy and you lose part of that, or you have like, I forget the name of it, temporal memory loss, something. And you have to recreate that stuff, right? I forget the name of it, anterior amnesia or anterior something amnesia. There's a really great movie. It's got Guy Pearce. It's called Memento. It's fucking great. I'll give it away. So if you haven't seen the movie, I'm going to give you a spoiler alert here. The movie starts at the end of the story and goes to the beginning of the story. And the reason it does that is because Guy Pearce, the guy who is the main character in the story, suffers from anterior grade memory or amnesia, right? He took a blow to the head or something like that. So he can't create new memories. He still has all the old memories, but he can't create new memories, at least not in a permanent sense. It's like episodic memory. So he can create memory for a little bit and then he forgets it once he like sleeps or once he has an episode, right? And then he comes back like, where am I? He doesn't know where he is, right? Because he can't remember what, like from an hour ago. So he can't create new memories. A fantastic fucking movie too. And it's a murder mystery on top of that too. Really great movie. But Memento, MEMENTO, I think is what it's called. Really good movie. You should check it out. But especially what I actually took a class in when I was at UNR, and it was a psychology class, and it was about memory and how our sort of our lives really are defined by what we can and what we cannot remember. Or when we create memories or we bullshit ourselves and we believe like stuff that isn't necessarily true, and we turn it into something that we eventually believe because we tell a lie to ourselves often enough, or we have like false memories, or we have like personality disorders that are a result of memory. So we have people in. So we got that, and then that goes into triad brain theory. And so when we're removing one element from that, we have like serious disabilities. Like if you have a lobotomy or something like that, you're going to have serious disabilities. Same thing with like different grades of amnesia. Okay. So your life and your life's quality really kind of depends on what the memories are that you're capable of like recalling, or how accurate you can recall things. But if we look at this, I'm going to bring this up one more time here. If we're looking at the lizard brain and we're looking at mammal brain and the human brain, the lizard brain is the one that happens the fastest. So each one of these sections of the brain here is a way of processing information. So if I see something like, that's why fight or flight is a really good example of this. If you've got, if a bear is coming after you, or the saber-toothed tiger or whatever is coming after you, you go into fight or flight mode, right? This is autonomous. This is something, you're going to get a squirt of adrenaline and you're going to either fight or you're going to fly. You're going to run, right? And that's instinctive, right? You don't, if you follow that instinct, you could get yourself killed. Like sometimes you might want to just like make yourself bigger, or there might be techniques that are going to save your life. But then the mammal brain kicks in and the emotions of fear kick in. And that might override the gray matter of the human brain, the neocortex. So, but the way I usually do this is, the way I like to explain this is if you've ever been in, if you've ever been in driver's ed, and you got to remember that like human beings did not evolve to drive a car. We're just like, it's simply something that we don't have the instinct. We don't have the know-how. We have to learn to drive a car. You have to learn how to use an accelerator. You got to learn how to fucking use a stick now, an automatic versus a manual transmission. You had to learn how to do a car. And one of the things they teach you in driver's ed is that if you ever find yourself in a skid, like you're going to spin out or you're going to skid, right? That you should turn into the skid rather
than slamming on the brakes. Because what happens when you slam on the brakes and you're a skid, you're going to make it worse. It's just you're going to spin around. I've done it too. And I did this once in my, I used to have a Toyota pickup truck. And I remember I was driving the rain on a 210 freeway in Pasadena. And suddenly, like all the traffic, I just saw this ocean of brake lights. I'm like, oh shit! I slammed on the brake on the brakes, and it had been raining that day. And so what happens is I spun out, but I did a complete 180. So the front of my car was facing oncoming traffic. I'm like, oh shit! But fortunately, I was close enough to the on ramp that I used as an off ramp to get off, and then I switched over, and so I saved my own life by that. So learning how to do things and improvising is those are life skills, right? But what they had I listened a little bit more in driver's ed, I would have known to turn into the skid, right? And so what happens when you turn into the skid is you get a drift car, right?
Yeah,
right?
You start power sliding.
And you start doing one of these things, right? I didn't learn how to do that until I started living in Lake Tahoe and it started snowing. Oh. And what my brother and I used to do is like we'd be driving along and we would hit hold the brake, and we turn like this and we slide into it right. If you timed it right, you could get right into the parking slip.
Just parallel parking.
It was fucking great, man. It was a challenge, right? But if you do that, you find that the car will correct itself, right? So if you turn into the skid, you're correct. But every bone in your body, when you're in that situation and you're driving at a certain speed, you're like, oh my God, slam on the brakes. I need to stop. Your instinct is to stop the vehicle so you don't die. But the problem is when you do that and you follow your instincts, you do die, because your instinct is to stop the car as quick as possible, but you'll go into a skid. And your monkey brain, your lizard brain doesn't know that. So what do you have to do? But you have to tamp down the fear, first of all, and then you have to rely on your learned knowledge, your gray matter, your your neocortex, right? And so if you've trained it enough and you learned it enough, and if you've done it enough and dared death enough, right? you can be a good drift car driver, right? I mean, your instincts tell you to do one thing, but when you learn something, then you can. It's a survival technique, right? So the other example I give, so that's the one example of the human brain, the neocortex, overriding the lizard brain. So you can override the instinctive mind. The other one I give is like martial arts, for example. Like your natural instinct and your emotional state is like, I don't want to put my face in front of your fist. I would rather not be hurt than be hurt. So what am I going to do? I'm going to puss out, be a coward, and get away as fast as I possibly can, because it's in my survival best interests not to fight. Flight is preferable to fight, right? Unless I'm forced and backed into a corner, I'm probably going to run, right? But sometimes you can't, and sometimes you have to fight. Right. Sometimes you just have to if you don't fight, you will be fighting more if you don't fight than if you do fight. Right. That's how you diffuse a bully. Right. Fucking kick his ass. Right. Say, I will not be bullied, and I will fuck you up if you try. Right. Well, you have to learn martial arts. You've got to learn some way to defend yourself. How do you do that? Well, guess what? You are blessed with a human brain with a neocortex, right? That can tamp down the mammal brain, the fear, and can tamp down your natural instinct to run away rather than fight, because that's your natural instinct. So can the neocortex, can your gray matter override your lizard brain and your emotional brain, your limbic system, your mammal brain? Yes, it can. It takes way longer to do that, because it's a process of learning. Wax on. Daniel-san, right? Now you know karate.
He was in fact the bad person.
Yeah, I mean that's actually a pretty good example, right? Like wax on, wax off, wax on. When am I going to learn karate? You already fucking know it, because now you're learning motor reflexes and stuff like that for do blocks and stuff. And that was, I mean, it's part of the plot of the movie. I get it, but like it's still learning those motor reflexes, so that you're tapping into the right portion of your brain, so that when I teach you more advanced techniques, you'll already have this down, right? That was the function of it. So wax on, wax off. And so you have, and where does that come from? That comes from just sitting there and doing it and learning it and taking a long time to do it, right? So the rational brain, the rational mind, learning brain, the gray matter takes longer. It's a longer process, but in ways it can be way more advanced than the emotional brain or the lizard brain. Now, the problem we have today is that we live in a world in the Western society that has adopted feels before reals. Where do those feels come from? Not the human brain, not the neocortex. They come from the mammal brain. They come from the limbic system. So what we're saying is that the mammal brain, the less developed, less evolutionary advanced midsection, I want to say it's not the cerebellum, it's the amygdala, whatever. The part of the brain that is the limbic system, emotions, memories, habits, and attachments, should be what guides us, should be what is dictating our social narrative, should be what is the basis of you living a great life, should be the basis of our politics, should be the basis of DEI hiring and fires burning in fucking Los Angeles. You want to know why? All of that because we've prioritized the mammal brain above instinct and the neocortex. That's where this comes from. So what we've been doing really, I think unsuccessfully since the sexual revolution, and we have empowered women for as long as we have, we've also empowered women's prioritization of feels before reals. Now, one thing I didn't get into when I was addressing this chick on Access Vegas is that the way that men and women prioritize our way of our processing, let's say, of information and systems or whatever, emotions, women tend to prioritize in this system right here, which is it is instinct, emotion, and reason. For men, it is usually instinct, reason, and then emotion. So if you took the human brain and you put that in the middle part right there, and you took the mammal brain and you put it at the end, then you would have the prioritization of men. Men tend to be more interested in things. Women tend to be more interested in people. Men are innate natural problem solvers, and we rely on our neocortex and our gray matter to solve those problems. We build upon what we know. We don't solve problems by addressing how we feel about those problems. We create new solutions to problems because we have prior knowledge that is stored in our big fat monkey brains. Okay? Do we have comments? Oh, hey, there we go. Let's throw this one on. Agreed. Many men who are addicted to porn also rewire their brain's reward pathways. Well, I was just getting to that, leading to dopamine surges. Okay, be careful of dopamine. Over time, the prefrontal cortex becomes less effective on controlling impulses and emotions, hence leads to more emotional decisions. Yes, that is absolutely true. I should also point out that sex is instinctual. So when I'm bringing up, we can use this one this time. When I bring up, let me kill that comment. There we go. When I'm looking at the triune brain here, you look at the rational side, logical thinking, emotions, and seeking pleasure. Now, you're correct about the seeking pleasure part right there. And then there's the reptile brain or the lizard brain, which is survival, fear. Those are the instincts. And remember, the emotional side, well, really all of these, I should say, of all three. I kind of like this one best. Well, this one's cool too. Yeah, maybe this one will serve. Okay, so if you look at the things that are listed here for human brains, like logic, abstract thinking, imagination, consciousness, and you look at the limbic side, if you're looking at, like, say, if you want to relate this in some way to like pornography addiction, okay. First off, is this dopamine is not actually the hormone that you need to, hormone that you need to be focusing on. It's primarily the endorphins that are the reward hormones, like the feel good shit. Okay, dopamine is the precursor to those endorphins, and it's sort of my Christian duty to remind people that dopamine is not the enemy. It's not, people say, oh, you're going to get addicted to dopamine. No, you're addicted to the endorphins that the dopamine gives you, says, yeah, they're coming soon, because dopamine is the precursor. It's the anticipation of feeling good. That's why when they use, when they talk about dopamine in gambling addictions, or even like, scrolling on your phone, or you could also, I guess you could sort of say like, well, I want to move on to the next porn movie, right? Whatever the next one is in the scroll, the next pull of the slot machine, the dopamine is the anticipation of the good feeling that's supposed to come after the act or after the behavior. Okay. So, but the good reward, the physical reward, the good feeling, the thing that gets you high is not the dopamine. It is actually the endorphins that come after the dopamine hit. So just pointing out the mechanics of this, because too many people want to just oversimplify it and say it's all about, and I'm not an endocrinologist, so I don't play one on the internet. But just pointing that out, because there's a difference between dopamine and the endorphins that come after it. Okay. Anyways, getting back at it here. So yeah, I mean, as far as rewiring the brain, the thing is that if you go back to you can rewire the brain, but the thing is there's what's known as neuroplasticity too. So while you can rewire your brain, you can also rewire it back. So just to don't people think, oh, I'm hopeless. You're not hopeless. So when we're talking about the prioritization of processing information, one of the things I've done, I've actually written about on at least 2 occasions, is how men and women process their emotions. And this is where things get like really kind of iffy, because we have created a society today that the feels before real society, right? So we've created this atmosphere or this social structure that rewards people for reinforcing the idea that emotion should supersede empiricism. It should supersede. It should be emotion first, and then what you think, like how you're going to solve the problem, right? Which is completely reverse of how men process emotion. So, and especially when it's negative emotions, instinct always happens no matter what. That's first in the stack. It's autonomous. It's part of your, it's part of the machinery. It's part of the firmware. Okay. So if you're going to process something, the first thing you're going to go through is the instinctual side of things. Then if you're a woman, you're going to go to emotion. If you're a guy and you haven't been conditioned to think like a chick, then you're going to go to reason and then emotion. Women go instinct, emotion, and reason. Men go instinct, reason, and then we're going to work out how we felt about the fucking saber-toothed tiger. Okay. So go to solve the problem, to solve the most immediate, to process that information. Men, generally speaking, unless they have been conditioned otherwise, will go instinct, reason, and then emotion. Women, instinct, emotion, and reason, which is why in a society by women, for women, organized in an egalitarian way, that's why we adopted feels before reals. That's why we prioritize feelings above everything. That's why women say, don't judge me, but because they don't want bad feelings for relating the information they're about to relate. Okay? There's so many different examples of this. It boggles the mind. That's why judgmentalism is a sin in wokesy society, in a female-centric society. Because women want to, like we were just talking about, like, are we our sister's keeper, right? Men need to be responsible for women's actions, right? Well, if women are prioritizing emotion before reason, then we are men. If you follow this logic, men are then responsible for the emotional decisions that women made, and we have to clean up the mess. So let's move on here. Getting back to it. So when men are faced with information, like a lot of women will say, well, men are emotionally stunted, or they need to go to therapy. Oh, it's so sexy when a guy goes to therapy. Well, it's not fucking sexy. There's nothing to it. The reason why they think it's sexy is because it's what a woman would do. And when I started like my program Reignite, one of the things I was very, our charter, our mission statement was that men deal with emotion differently than women. We are not the fucking same. We are not blank slates. And what works for women does not work for men. But the reason why women think that it will is because women can't understand that men do not process emotion the same way that they do. And so when I was here, I was talking to this one of our, the chick who was a panelist here. This is kind of like what I was trying to get at, but I know I didn't have enough time to really explain it in detail. But I haven't gone through instinct, emotion, and reason for quite some time because it's so comprehensive, because it takes a lot to really sort of master. But you have to go back to like from the micro scale, from the limbic system, all the way up to how are we going to organize society. So if women's experience and the way women process emotion and the way women think and the way women would organize society is the correct way to do it, the male way of doing it is then incorrect. So if I default to anger, if I default to action, if I default to a male specific emotion, or if I am analytical about things, or if Mike Sartain is with me and he's very analytical about I think we got into this conversation because we were discussing whether or not women had some sort of sixth sense or they had some sort of instinctive, intuition is what they were calling it. Intuitive way of understanding whether a man was like cheating on her or not. And Mike had to like sort of like set these chicks straight. He was the Excel spreadsheet guy, right? So he's trying to explain to these women, like if they have a dream about their boyfriend cheating on them, that it's actually just a dream and there's no like foundation in factual reality that their boyfriend is actually cheating on them. It's a joke because like the girl will wake up and she'll smack the guy and say, I can't believe you would cheat on me. And the dude's like, what? Because she thinks that the dream was, because she feels like the dream was real. Like she feels like the guy you cheated on me. No, I didn't. What the fuck are you talking about? I had a dream and you were fucking Sally. I'm not fucking Sally. This is the real world and you were dreaming that. But because women prioritize emotion before fucking reason, that feeling was just as real as if he had fucked Sally in real life. And she woke up and she thinks that there's some sort of like, of course, now, as I said before, when we don't know what to call something, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. That's when that feeling turns into spiritual sixth senses, right? Then it's like, oh, we have some psychic, way of determining whether this guy is cheating on us or something is true. Guys are trying to put one past us, or we're vibing, or the energies are different, or the fucking crystal is powered up or it's not powered up, or the fucking astrology signs aren't right, or the tarot cards weren't right. Those are explanations. Those are spiritual and like superstitious explanations that women will give to technologies or reasons that they can't put a fucking name to. Then the reality of it is that she probably has some sort of anxiety. She had a dream about this guy cheating on her, and it felt just as real as if he had. And to the point where I think the story went, the guy actually apologized for fucking the girl in her dreams, right? Because he's like, okay, I'll just make it up to you. Okay, I'm sorry I fucked Sally in your dreams, right? But that emotion, because women prioritize emotion before reason, it feels just as real. It could be just as real because for a woman's sort of state of reality, emotion comes before reason. For men, it's reason comes before emotion. So if you didn't cry at the end of Titanic, you're not fucking emotionally stunted. You're not retarded. You don't have, your emotional intelligence isn't high enough or or you don't need fucking therapy. You're a guy and you don't process shit the same way. Your brain works different. The architecture, the hardware, the synapses, the wiring is completely different. That's why guys are more interested in things. Women are more interested in people. Men tend to be problem solvers. Our purpose is to solve problems. It's to build bridges. It's to fly to fucking Mars if you're Elon Musk, right? It's to do things. Women talk, men do, right? And that's another thing. Men must become, women just are. And so when you just are, your emotional state dictates what your reality is. It dictates what to the point where a dream might be reality, to the point where it felt so fucking real that you want him to apologize for the dream that she had. It's ludicrous. And that's what, like, Mike doesn't suffer idiots for very long. But when the idiots are his girlfriends, it's kind of hard not to do. Let's see what else I got here. I got two more. Let's see. What are you here? Wilo Ren and Wolo, love you guys. Hey, Wilo Ren, you got some love, Wilo. Was a blast meeting you, amigo. Thank you.
Boogie.
Was that that's from the cigar bar?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Got you. Yes.
Get over here, Boogie.
Fat stacks for everyone. Man, my fucking my Solana exploded.
Right?
Oh man, I woke up. I was like, because I was just like, I was moving things. I know something was going to happen because we have the inauguration is coming. I'm like, maybe I'll take it out of USDC and I'll put it into something safe, like Solana, like Solana, right? I throw it down there. So I moved that stuff. I moved my stuff from USDC in there, and then I woke up on fucking Friday morning. I was like, "What the fuck?" I'm $8,000 richer. Holy shit! And I hit up Trader SZ, and I was like, "What the fuck just happened?" He goes, "Go look at Trump Coin," and I did. And by the way, Trump Coin, $32 billion market cap in 24 fucking hours. Bravo! Wow, how did that happen? And then so I was reading the story about that. Did you know that Trump's lifetime worth, his lifetime net value is $7 billion? Market cap was 32 billion and he made it in 24 hours. Oh my God. Yes. And of that, I think he's keeping something like 26 billion.
Yeah, because 80% of the supply is hit. The conglomerate.
And I asked Trader SC, I'm like, why did you not tell me about this sooner? Because I would have jumped in immediately. But they released it on Solana network, and that's why anything on Solana went through the fucking roof. So, God, what a great one! Yeah, amazing. What did you say? Let me see. Just an interesting fact from official sites: the divorce marriage ratio in Russia for 2024 is 80 to 100. 80-100 divorces, 80 to 100 marriages. Wow, interesting. Very, very interesting. What else was I going to throw at you guys? Anyways, that's the triune mind theory. I wanted to sort of reheat that a little bit because I think a lot of people, I don't know, honestly, I don't know anybody who's actually talking about this stuff. Like when I look at the processing of information, remember, this is like evolutionary biology almost. Again, I'm not a neurological scientist. I'm not a brain surgeon, and I don't even pretend to play one on the internet. But I picked out the prioritization of instinct, emotion, or reason. I didn't know anything about the triune mind theory when I wrote those essays at the time. Now I'm kind of glad I did. But my focus on this stuff was the speed with which we process things. So, like I said, for example, like instinct is instantaneous. Emotion is faster, but it's not as fast as instinct. And then reason and understanding, like I think one of the reasons why, like they always say that men mature slower than women, and I think the reason for that is because we focus primarily on reason and empiricism, and it takes longer to learn that shit. So it takes longer for a man to become like his peak potential than it does for women. And so I hear this today, like women keep saying like, oh, women reach their level of emotional maturity faster than men. I'm like, big fucking deal. When do they reach their like rational and empirical maturity? But we tend to think of things in like, if a woman gets there faster, then yay, team woman. It's like, okay, what about rationality and reason? That's not to say that women can't be rational and reasonable. It just means that it takes longer to learn that. But when you live in a social order that prioritizes emotion before reason, like feels before reals, the correct way of thinking is to go with your heart. It'll never lead you astray, right? Or that's when we get into soulmate myth. That's when we get into astrology is real. That's when we get into, let's ask the magic 8-ball or something. Right? That's when we get into tarot cards. That's because we want to. If you can't make sense of it, and you certainly will not be able to make sense of a phenomenon with emotion, You can only do so with reason. But if you don't understand the language, if it's something you don't understand, you're going to apply magic to the technology that is too advanced for you to understand. So I love using that Arthur C. Clarke quote, a lot for a lot of different things. So like, that's why I have a tough time. Like I have to explain this to Mike too. I like, Mike, the thing is she doesn't understand the technology that you're explaining to her. And that was actually a part of the conversation. I said, because I looked at her and I said, because she was saying, one of the things she said to Mike was that all of your understanding and all of your mechanics, she's trying to put a name to it, like all your empirical thinking, all of your processes and all your mechanics don't apply to human nature because humans are not understandable or whatever. And I stopped her right there and I go, do you think that, Mike didn't pick up on this, but like I said, do you think that human beings are exempt from being understood through the same scientific method that we understand computers or the cameras that are on us right now, or the magic 8-ball? Do you think that the process and the mechanics that Mike was describing don't also apply to human beings and even their emotional states? And that's when I said, look, emotions aren't magic. I can change your emotion with tequila. I can change your emotion with 200 milligrams of Tren. I can change your emotions with music or art or whatever, a saber-tooth tiger. I can change your emotions, and it's not magic pixie dust. It's not some cosmic energy. It's not magic. And that's when the other girl was saying like, oh, well, it sucks because once you explain the magic trick, then it's not magic trick anymore. Like, yeah, I know. And that's the whole thing. I think that you want to know all the things that divide men and women right now. So women want the magic and guys have too much information right now. There is no magic on that side. There is no imagination. There's not even any desire to try to attempt to speak that language, right? And still maintain your sort of scientific empirical mind. Like I have if you've read my first book, there's a chapter in there, it's called Dispelling the Magic. And I saw this long time ago, like prior to all that, I think, back in 2012, 2011 even, because it was on my blog before anything else. So I wrote this blog post that ended up as a chapter in the first book, and it's called Dispelling the Magic. And it was one of the reasons why I said, if you are going to unplug yourself from the matrix, you can't be Cypher. You can't put yourself back in. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Once you see the code in the matrix, you can't unsee it anymore. Once you put on the red pill lens, the glasses don't come off. It's like in They Live, you put the glasses on and you say, obey, and you can see like the monsters are after you and stuff like that. At least Roddy Piper can take off the glasses and like, back to the real world, right? But then you put them back, the red pill lens, they stay on. You see the monsters all the time. You see the messages all the time, right? And so there's no reinserting yourself back into the matrix. There's no juicy steak to eat anymore. So be careful. It's actually one of the lead-in chapters of my 6th book that I'm writing right now called Reignite, is once you make the decision to sort of like be red pill aware, and some people it's their choice and some people it's not because they go through some sort of trauma or crisis and they can't help but, sort of become red pill aware. But once you do, a lot of guys get really upset with that, especially if they're like really deeply ego invested in their beliefs and their ideologies and their religion, whatever else. You can't unsee it. You can't go back. And so, I was saying, like, you tell me now if you want the fucking keys to the Playboy Mansion, because it's not all sugar and spice in the Playboy Mansion, right? It's not all fun and games. There's some responsibilities. Like the truth will set you free, but it won't make the truth any prettier. And it won't absolve you of the responsibilities of knowing that truth. You'll be free. But sometimes that truth is ugly as shit. So you got to decide now what you want. But I told Mike later on, I said, it's the magic. It's the want for going back and playing the game rather than having the game explained to you. And it sucks, man. I get it, man. I want the magic back too. That's why I want good imaginative movies. That's why I want good screenplays. That's why I want good stories. We've lost that sense. I remember I remember watching what was it, the first Stranger Things, the first season of that. And I watched that with my daughter. And then my daughter wanted me to watch The Conjuring. And both of those movies, the series and the movies are based in like the 70s or the 80s, early 80s, right? And my daughter said to me later on, she goes, "You know why those movies were scary?" And I go, "Why?" He goes, "Because they were based in the late 70s and early 80s, and we didn't have cell phones, and we didn't have knowledge of like Freddy Krueger, and we didn't have knowledge of it was all new, and it was all scary as fuck because we didn't know what was coming, right? We didn't have the technology to sort of pre-inform us of why we shouldn't be all that scared. It's just most like a guy comes at you, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You're just going to say, "Hey, I got this guy. He's coming at me with a with a chainsaw right now." The technology sort of ruins the magic of it. We know how the special effects were done in Alien. We know how. We know that we all know that the face huggers, if they get you on the face, they're going to put a freaking alien baby inside of you, right? We know that now. We've had almost 40 some odd years of knowing that right now. But it takes away the magic. It used to be something that is imaginative, and now it's explained to us. And so we don't call it magic anymore. It is what it is. And in some ways that sucks, especially for women. It sucks because they prioritize emotion before a reason. And if you can be, and I think this is something Robert Greene put, I think he put it in, it was 48 Laws of Power. And I forget which law it was, but if you can create compelling spectacles for people, and you can give them, if you can be an oasis in the desert of their real lives, and you can be something that sort of like gives them sort of an escape, or if you can give them something that gives them a little bit of magic, you can parlay that into being a millionaire. You can parlay that into a real form and a real source of power. So if you can find some way to sort of like rekindle and prolong the magic for women, or if you can vibe with them, then you have a tool, you have a superpower of some sorts. So take that as you will. Yeah. Well, okay. So let me. I'm looking at the chat right here. We're getting short on time, but I will see if I can tie this up in a nice little bow here. One of the things that I think a lot of guys like will say, like a criticism of this, is they'll be like, "Well, so fucking what? Women got to take it on the chin. It's reels before feels, Rollo. Fuck you. Fuck these women, because they need to know what's up, right? They should. It's like when guys say, "How come women can't just say what they mean and mean what they say?" Because they'd be dudes. Because you'd be fucking a guy, is what you'd be doing. As I said before, no guy has ever reasoned a woman into bed. It's always an emotional connection. It's always an emotional association. It feels good. Like she wants to feel good. Feel emotion. I want to feel good. Okay, well, give me some magic. Show me some. That's romance. Romance is just another name for fucking the magic. That's all. So when we talk about energy and vibes and, secret cosmic juju or some shit like that, you're just giving a name to it. Right? But guys want everybody to be, well, how come they can't just be like dudes? How come they can't just, how come women can't just be empirical? How come we're telling them like it is? They should want to fuck us at the end of that Excel spreadsheet. Look, I'm the perfect dude. Here I am. Why are you fucking Brock the bartender when I am the living embodiment of everything you say you want? They don't know what they want. They'll say that because that's what seems like the right thing to say for long-term security anyways. But the truth of the matter is that women rely on alpha fucks and beta bucks, right? It's hypergamy. So you might be the living embodiment of the beta buck side of that equation, but you in no way represent the alpha fuck side of that equation, because the alpha fuck side of that equation it's visceral and it's biological, it's evolutionary, it's hot fucking monkey sex, it is urgent, it is anxious, and it's above all emotional. It's above all feel. It's feels before reals. I don't know why I don't usually do this. No, you do, but you need an out because it feels good. What do we got? I think men understand women have different hardware. It's the authority and responsibility part that stinks. Yeah. Well, again, you don't organize society based on feels. That will get you fucking killed. All right? Because if we did that, we wouldn't turn into the skid. If we did that, we would slam on the brakes every single time. And I mean that metaphorically in the sense that if we're going to organize society and we're going to build something that's going to be a great society and something that works for everyone, it can't be on fucking how we feel about it. It has to be based on rationality. It has to be based on looking forward. It has to be based on something that is practical, something that makes fucking pragmatic, something that makes fucking sense. Also, something that takes into account feelings, but not prioritizing them above every fucking thing else, which is what we've done since the sexual revolution, since the mid 60s. We've been, gradually building up to where we're at. Oh, I can't believe we're living such a degenerate society, Rollo. I fucking can. We're trying to prioritize feeling over everything else. Not mathematics, not fucking the Excel spreadsheet, not the understanding of how things work. That's not to say that we shouldn't have imagination. God forbid, I still think that's part of the human equation, but like we can't have that as the most important part. We keep that, yes, absolutely, but we prioritize it beneath the empirical side so that we can fucking right the course of the goddamn ship. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, 37. Thank you. Geez, here, I'll even give you one. I'll give you Don DeMarco for looking it up. Law 37, create compelling spectacles. Yes, be somebody who can tell a good story. Be a good storyteller for sure. Yeah, okay, we got to that. Before I go, I wanted to also point out one thing that I've been kind of watching recently. Now we got about 4 more minutes here before I bug out, but also wanted to give a shout out to Coach Greg Adams. Coach Greg Adams, and I don't usually do this, but but CGA did a video recently about how like sort of the manosphere is like eating itself or destroying itself or whatever. It's like I agree with like probably 85-90% of what he's saying. I agree with it actually 100%, but I would say that it's incomplete. I don't think anybody has been in the manosphere longer than I have, first of all. And then second of all is I think his timeline is a little fucked up. MRAs have been around, or I shouldn't say that. Pickup artists were really a creation of the early 2000s, mid 2000s. MRAs have been around really well for a long time, but like they didn't really come into their own until 2013, 2015, something like that. MGTOWs, on the other hand, that's sort of a creation of the 2017, 2018. I'm just timeline. The only thing I had to go against. But I don't think that the manosphere is dead. I don't think it's eating itself. I think it's just doing exactly what it's always been doing. And as I was saying before, when I was making my sort of year-end predictions, that we would be looking more like we'd be looking at MGTOW as some preeminent message. Like we're going to call the red pill MGTOW. MGTOW is going to be red pill. Like we always do this. Everybody does this. MRAs. I remember the MRA. I remember when Paul Elam and Dean Esme. They hated the red pill. They hated fucking Roosh. They hated anyone who would conflate the MRA, the men's rights movement, with them. And there was a time where like anybody who was on the outside viewing the manosphere, such as it was back then, would call anything like that. Like now they'll call me an incel. They'll call the CGA an incel. Anybody who is sort of like in this space, they'll just call them an incel, right? But there was a time where incel wasn't in vogue. So what they would do is they would say, you're an MRA. Like I was an MRA. Like I've never been an MRA. I will never be an MRA. No, I remember when these guys hated the term red pill.
until a little girl named Cassie J came along and decided to name her film or documentary film, which is really about her, not about MRAs, but it was supposed to, ostensibly it was about them. And it was called The Red Pill. And then, of course, they love to be called The Red Pill. They would embrace it. We've always been called The Red Pill. What are you talking about? Like, no, you haven't. In fact, you hated that. They hated the fact that they were even conflated or even mentioned in the same sentence as Roosh V, who's a name you don't really hear all that much these days anyways. But I did want to say that I understand the concern, and I understand I think a lot of people are going to start abandoning the Manosphere or the label Manosphere. It won't be me because I can't get away from it, and a CGA, I don't think you can get away from it either. It is what it is. People want convenient categories and little boxes to put people into, and that's all. It's just human nature. It's what people are going to do forever. So rather than sort of get all up in arms about it, I'd say lean into it. But I just want to point that out because I thought the video was pretty accurate, but I just think the timing was a little bit off. But honestly, I think MGTOW is going to end up being something. It'll be the topic du jour by August. So let's see what else we got here. That's pretty good. Like lazy Americans, because we're lazy Americans. Spelled FYK. Interpol, DICO. And yes, I feel comfortable in saying the Tates are going to go to prison. I'm very confident they'll be going to prison right now. And that is not me throwing them under the bus. That is just me. Do I want them to go to prison? I'm not saying I do. I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying they're going to go to prison. I think all signs point to that happening, and sooner than later, because when you see like guys like Ben Shapiro suddenly bringing up the name of Andrew Tate, we're probably getting pretty close to court or the court date. Also, I haven't mentioned this. I was good. I didn't say shit about this, but I'm going to say shit about it now. And I'm actually surprised this got by me, but there's a video of Michaela Peterson in the background walking at Tate's place. And I posted it on Twitter, and it's actually from an interview he was doing with somebody, forget who it was, at the time that she was there. And it more or less confirms everything I said about her in the interview that I did with her. And none of her story really gels. It doesn't jive now. So, and I think she's going to be notably quiet about everything that happens with the Tates coming up soon. So I think the silence says more than anything she could possibly say about it. But again, one more thing I was right about is Michaela Peterson. So there you go. What is this? When is Trump your Trump? When is my Trump? Getting my Trump, who boosted my Solana, is getting into office on Tuesday, right?
Yeah,
or Monday. Tuesday.
Monday. It's 20th, right? Inauguration. Yeah. Monday.
Yeah. Tomorrow.
Yeah.
I know Fresh is there. Fresh and Justin Waller are down there right now. So Miguel was supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Oh well. Yeah. Oops. Let's see. Oh yeah, that was funny. Yeah, I can't get laid. MGTOW. Only way a woman will ever deal with me is on her terms. MGTOW. I know my destiny to beta bucks, which I'd rather not. MGTOW. Yeah. You know, the thing about, I remember, was in 2021 because this was like just after Biden got in office, and we were still kind of in the COVID year because we had 2020, and then put it this way, I still had to wear a mask on flights. So we were still in the COVID days. But I remember in August of 2021, and I had to deal with these guys, these jokers like MGTOW Dictionary and some of these other freaking spurged out idiots. And that's why I'm saying, like, right now, I'm pretty sure we're going to go back to like MGTOW as being sort of are going to enter the chat at some point. I don't know how influential they'll be, but like MGTOW will enter the chat this year. Because they won't like to be called incels, and they sure as shit don't want to be called pickup artists. And by the CGA, by the way, there are no pickup artists today. There really are none. I mean, you could say you could say mystery because they like thawed him out from cryogenic freeze, put him in the fucking clubs again. But there are like pickup. PUA is not mystery in elevator boots and a fucking top hat and a fucking furry feather boa and black fingernail polish. Those days are long gone. And also, by the way, the what was it, the pickup artist on VH1, that wasn't 2013, that was 2007, my friend. That was another. I'm like, oh, he was so close. He's so, because he mentioned that on his thing, and I was like, no, dude, it wasn't 2013. It was like 2007. Nobody cared about PUA at that time. In fact, RSD and Owen Cook were like completely pivoting out of PUA stuff by 2015, 2016, because they were opting for like the feel good, like success porn shit, right? Now there's people that are sort of coming back to like dating coaches and stuff like that. But honestly, I don't see them being as big a deal in the near future, because you still have these guys who are like, mighty mountain moving men of Christ or whatever it is. Those guys are pretty loud voice now too. There are no pickup artists. There are no real dating coaches, because they get shouted down by, I'm a real man and this is what real men ought to do. Influencer guy. And also, you got to remember that the technology has changed too. So we might not have TikTok anymore, but I will guarantee you that everybody who was on TikTok is now going to. And by the way, welcome to the Rational Male, all you TikTok exodus, the diaspora of TikTok people. Welcome to the Rational Male. I'm happy to have you. Please join the club. But you will see all the TikTokers decide to come into. They'll probably infiltrate Instagram, certainly Twitter, YouTube to a lesser degree. And I hate to say it, but I'm concerned that they're going to find their way to my Substack and ruin Substack too. But I think you're going to see a lot of. And there's going to be. Isn't there already some alternatives to TikTok right now?
There was. It was like Lemonade and everything, but they brought back TikTok this morning.
Oh, they brought it back.
Yeah, it's back. I'm pretty sure it's a political ploy, anyways.
Is it the kinder, gentler? Is it the non-CCCP version of CCP?
So last night, I think around 9 p.m., West Coast, right?
Mm-hmm.
They turned it completely off. And they would come up with things saying, TikTok's working with President Trump and yada, yada, yada. They're going to fix it. Literally the next morning.
It's the inaugural surprise.
Yeah. It's his gift.
Yes. Here's my gift to you, kids. We're bringing back TikTok. Oh God! It was for a brief shining moment. I had hope.
I was waiting for the next social media pop up for it.
Yeah, it won't happen. Was it my guess is that TikTok ban in the USA will be much like the YouTube ban in Russia, pretty much fictional. Yeah. Probably. Well, what are you gonna do about it? It's like people saying like we need to ban OnlyFans. Well, yeah. Can you tell me how you're gonna do it? It's an $18 billion company. You're not gonna ban OnlyFans. Yeah, that would be funny. All right. Well, I guess I will see you guys at the inauguration tomorrow. Again, don't forget, I will be at the AVN this week. I'll be bringing I'll bring the show to the girls. That means I will be doing it on Instagram, not on this channel, because if I did it on this channel, I would be banned. So have a look at if you don't follow me on Instagram, please do. It's rational_male. That's where I'm at. But I do live streams there. I do reels. I do all kinds of stuff. I'm hip, man. I do what all the kids do. You can on Tuesdays between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. Pacific time on Instagram. That's when I do my live streams of band rehearsal for my band Jinx, which you guys can go and check out if you want to see if you like the intro music to this, that's a song that we do. So it's usually like the third song that we do, but that'll be on Tuesday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. I guess that would be 6 to 8 on Eastern time. So you want to. But do look me up on Instagram and follow me there. You can follow me on. I am not on TikTok. I am on TikTok, but I hardly ever use it. I just like flow videos on there and don't try to contact me on TikTok because I will not answer. Facebook, I'm on Facebook. I don't really use it that much. I use it to like sort of make announcements and stuff. Occasionally, I'll get into it. Facebook's not my groove. Twitter is my groove. So if you need to talk to me on Twitter, just hit me up anytime. If you want to DM me on Instagram, Twitter and Instagram are like my two main platforms. I guess I should probably change that at some point. And then you can also find me on Substack. I'm on there really often too. So in fact, you probably have a better chance of getting me on Substack than anything else. So, but anyways, that'll be that. And then look for my AVN coverage that's coming up. It will probably be Thursday. So Wednesday or Thursday. I'll be there with Domo. I think Alina, my friend Alina, will be with us. And we're going to have an Access Vegas posse go around the expo center, talk to ratchet hoes, porn stars, all these degenerates that you guys hate so much. Yeah. We'll be talking to them and having good, substantive, constructive conversations with lesbian porn stars. And by the way, shout out to the AVN guys. They give me a press pass every fucking year, no questions asked. and I love them for it. So thank you, because it gets me into everything. Yeah. I go anywhere I want to. But I'll be at the expo Thursday for sure. So that'll be the time to check me out on Instagram. And that will be your midweek show. It will be me wandering around the expo. It is at the Virgin Hotel.
Go figure.
in Las Vegas, so we can check that out. Bring Myron back. Back where? Some accountability is missing on the show. What, like such as telling these bitches what's up? Kick them off the show. I should tell you guys. I have talked to I talk to Fresh all the time. But Fresh and Justin are at the inauguration, and Myron's usually in our chats as well. But the next time they're out in Vegas, we'll definitely have them back on. The problem we had last time was we were right before the Babes in Toyland Christmas edition, and we didn't want to like rock the boat or make too big a deal because it's Christmas time and all these girls are our friends. We didn't want to have anything that would fuck things up for us. But I told Myron, I told Fresh, I said, we owe you guys a show. So you guys, next time you're in Vegas, we'll have you on. So yes, it's coming at some point. The next time they're out here for like, what is it? Power Slap. Next time they're out here for Power Slap, yeah, we'll probably do that or whatever else that they're doing. So anyways, that'll be good. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. And again, don't miss me next Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, and I'm out. Bye, guys.
I need to feel you on top of me. It was my first time, but I was just a kid when we met and went to bed. It was my first time. What do you expect from me? I'm breaking up the rules now in the game. I've got some new tools. Please do the same. Time came by and went over like a matchbox stereo. My thoughts now let go. Bound to keep me up. That's nasty.
Guilty, 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 guilty.
But maybe we can fuck again. And maybe things are different. Goddamn, baby, one more again. Won't you put it on me one more again? I need to know if maybe we can fuck again. Then maybe things are different. Goddamn, baby, one more again. Best in my life.
All right, all right, all right.
Now we're fucking in the bathroom, tearing up everywhere while I got your hair. Why you screaming my name?
That's nasty. It is nasty, right? Isn't it nasty? Ugh.
She was swinging in the bedroom, whole time stopping and slipping with her hair like she's Claudia Kelly. Well, I'm a whore. Why me? Drive me up
podcast has been a production of the Rational Male. All rights reserved. 2025. Register trademark. And don't steal Ned stuff.
No, you're wrong.
God wants you to have the baby.